What is up, guys? Welcome back to another MMA Dynasty debate. We got a lot of good topics for you. We're going to be discussing Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler first. They were just announced to be coaches on The Ultimate Fighter, which is a dying show, but it's going to make a comeback. I'm sure the ratings will be great, but we're not here to just talk about the show. We're here to break down the fight. I am one of the people that thinks that Conor McGregor is a shell of his former self, and I think that he's way in over his head. I think his ego has gotten to him a little bit, and I think that he's not going to be able to handle a guy like Michael Chandler. But there are plenty of people that are picking him already. And I wanted to ask you, this is the first thing I want to ask. We have Jared, we have Jared's friend Naeem, and we have Jacob. And I'm going to go in a circle. I'll ask all of you guys first. Naeem, you can go first. Jared, then you go, and then Jacob, you go, and I'll give my take. And once we all give our take on it, we'll all discuss. So my question is, who are you picking in this fight? And does Conor McGregor still have a shot at beating ranked fighters? That is the question. That is the discussion. So Jared, Naeem, which one of you guys wants to go first? Give me your take. Who do you guys think wins? And do you think Conor McGregor can still beat ranked fighters?
Yeah, my take is good. Can you hear right now?
Yeah. Just
I'm very sorry about the wind.
speak up. Speak up. It'll be good. It'll be fine.
All right, my take is simple. I don't think he beats Chandler. I think Chandler wins.
You think Chandler gets him?
I think Chandler wins.
Okay. And why?
Because of his base, he just puts a base on dudes. Like, if you don't survive that first round, I mean, if he survives that first round, then he might win. Because Chandler just gasses out after the first round. But yeah, I think he's too explosive. He's too powerful. He's got his wrestling. Like, he's just a problem for Conor in that first round.
Okay. And do you think he can still take out ranked UFC lightweights, some of the toughest guys in one of the best divisions? Do you think Conor McGregor still has potential to beat a lot of those ranked guys like Arman Sarukians, Justin Gaethjes, Dustin Poiriers?
No, I don't think he wins those fights. No.
All right.
I think he's just like a money fight for the UFC at this point. Like, they just make him because of his name. They make him fight because of his name. Or he just fights because of his name. But yeah, I don't think he wins those fights, no.
Okay. Jared, what do you think?
Yeah. So Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. I think Conor has a bigger chance than people are saying. I think that the thing that is worrying me the most is just like even those Dustin Poirier fights, those were a bit ago and an injury ago. And he's just not very active. He's just going to continue to get worse. So that's my opinion on it. But if he was just as good as how he was when he was having his moments versus Poirier, I really think that Chandler, he might get beat to the punch in a lot of these exchanges. But I just really feel like Conor, after that pressure starts wearing on him, I honestly feel like Conor would be more affected as the rounds go on than Chandler.
Really?
So yeah, I do. Because I feel like that ring rust and that he's also had issues with just going into those later rounds and stuff like that, particularly in my opinion against Poirier, more so than how people fault him for like the Nate Diaz fight or whatever. I just feel like he just isn't going to be able to get in those like those brawls long term with Chandler.
Yeah. Okay. Jacob, what do you think?
I got McGregor at first when the fight was released. I was like, all right, Chandler's for sure gonna win this fight. All that. Then I started watching film, really thinking about it, all that stuff. And I think McGregor flatline KOs him, honestly. And the reason I say that is because, like, look, if Chandler starts off with his wrestling and fights smart and like takes McGregor down, holds him down, all that stuff, I think he wins the fight. But we know Michael Chandler, like, he's one of the worst fight IQs ever. He's there to have a good time rather than winning, put on an entertaining fight rather than winning. So I think he's gonna go out there, trying to strike with Conor. I think he's gonna get fucking flatline KO'd, honestly. And yeah, as simple as that. I just think he's a very hittable guy. And McGregor is a very accurate puncher. Even if he hasn't fought in a couple years, like he still has that like level of striking. Like that's not gonna go away. So I think he's gonna flatline KO Michael Chandler. And I think the reason they gave him Chandler over Poirier, over Tony. I actually think Chandler is an easier opponent than Tony. The more you really think about it, is because I think Tony, like obviously, he's not the same guy, but he could. I still think he could be a guy who's around in the later rounds. While Chandler, I think he's a guy who just gasses out within the first 2 rounds, as we've seen in all of his fights in Bellator. So I think like even if it goes later on, I still think Conor could even win that fight. But if Chandler fights smart, I think he's gonna win. But we can't expect Chandler to fight smart. Like he always seems to like screw it up. So that's why I got Conor. I think he's gonna KO him. You're on mute.
You're muted.
My bad. Okay. I think that's a wild pick, and this is why. Conor McGregor is the definition of a guy who's waking up in silk sheets. He's been taking off year-plus layoffs. During this time, Conor McGregor is not like Tom Aspinall, who just had a freak injury against Curtis Blades, who's doing everything in his power to just chill, take care of his health, recover. Conor McGregor is out in the club. He's smoking, he's drinking, he's snorting, and he's shooting movies. He's going on 6-month benders. And here's the thing. This guy's body is falling apart. In his last 2 fights, he's had significant injuries. Conor McGregor has gotten, his leg torn to shreds against Dustin Poirier twice now. The first time, his leg was softened up by Dustin Poirier in their rematch, and that's ultimately what led to him getting really compromised and getting TKO'd. The second fight, sure, it was a freak injury. Nonetheless, that injury is going to affect him for the rest of his life. His leg came off the bone like that. And I'm looking at Conor McGregor as a guy who's been, training for the last 6 months maybe? He just got off of crutches. His leg will never be the same. He's been saucing, lifting. This guy is not going to be coming back loose, with good fluid movement, dexterity. He's going to be coming back big, stiff, with false confidence from training with his cardio kickboxing attendees, because Conor is not sparring with guys that are actually trying to push him and humble him in the gym. Conor's not getting those tough rounds. And here's what I know. Michael Chandler, for the last 15 years, especially before leaving Bellator, when he knows he's going to the UFC for the first time, when he's training for every single UFC fight, which for him is the biggest fight of his life, this guy has been training consistently on demon mode. You look at his Instagram videos, his strength and conditioning is wild. And I think people underrate his chin. Michael Chandler's been knocked out, but Dustin Poirier, who's one of the best strikers on earth, who actually has some heat in his hands, he didn't knock Chandler out. Gagey didn't knock him out. He's been dropped, but he's only been knocked out once in the UFC. He gave Poirier a tougher fight than Conor did in the last two fights that Conor's had. Conor got TKO, dusted up. You know what I mean? That's nothing to bolster. He had a couple of good shots in that entire fight, and before that, he beat Donald Cerrone, which to me, it wasn't even a fight. I can't look into that. I can't see Conor in the first 40 seconds and be like, damn, this guy really still has it. I think that after the first round, when Conor McGregor's tired, when his leg is getting chewed up, and he's got Michael Chandler, who's just a fucking beast in front of him, I think he's thinking of an out. I think he knows his yacht is outside. He knows he can get anything he wants. And it's just a safe way to just kind of bow out. I think he wilts these days. And I'm looking at a guy that is declining significantly with every year he takes off. I'm taking Michael Chandler to knock him out inside of 1 round. I'm taking Michael Chandler to knock him out. I think he chews up his leg, and I think he gets him out of there real early. So that's my pick. I just can't pick Conor. He's a movie star now. He's sure he could beat Paddy Pimblett. Michael Chandler is a savage. He's fast twitch, and Conor McGregor, this is not the guy from 2018, not even the guy from 2020, and not the guy that came back to fight Dustin in the rematch. He's way worse than even then. So that's my ultimate pick. What do you guys think?
You're on mute, I think. But anyways, you're on mute, Lucas.
Jared and Naeem, you guys are on mute.
Yeah, I was asking if it was my turn. If you were asking me. You're on mute again.
Your microphone is.
I just can't see Conor winning this fight.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, dude, like, I don't know. Like, Jacob,
I just think that
understand.
Chandler always managed to screw it up, you know, and I could see it like see him just trying to like play with his food a bit and then just get knocked out. You know what I mean? Like I just like, and I just think Chandler is too hittable of a guy. He's been chinny. He got dropped by Tony Ferguson. We know how Tony Ferguson is nowadays. You know, like we saw him against Nate Diaz. He's super slow. He got dropped by Tony Ferguson. He did show some durability against Poirier, but he did still get dropped against Poirier. Like he got dropped against Gaethje, got dropped against Oliveira. So in 4 of his 5 UFC, is that 4? Yeah, 4 of his 5 UFC fights.
Did he get dropped against Poirier? I actually don't
in
even
the first
remember.
round, and then the first round.
Really? I don't even remember that, but I'll take you.
He's gotten dropped.
Who won the second round, by the way?
Against Poirier?
Chandler dominated him in the second round.
Well, I mean, that doesn't matter. Like I think what matters is that he's 36. He's gotten dropped in all of his last 5 fights. He's taken when Conor was recovering, no matter what he was doing, he was still like recovering. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't taking this damage, this wear and tear that Chandler has. Like obviously, look, this is the thing. Like obviously Conor isn't active, and that could ultimately hurt him. But like, would you rather be super active and taking all this damage, getting up there in age, all this wear and tear, going through all these wars, or do you rather be recovering? You know what I mean? Like, and
I don't consider Conor McGregor's time off recovering. Like, I consider Conor McGregor's time off recovering. To me, is sitting with one of those ice casts on your leg, elevated, you know, doing cryotherapy, ice baths, you know, massage therapy. Conor's probably doing that, but he's also on yachts, partying at his Black Forge Inn, like getting wild and shooting movies for 6 months. That to me is not a consistent, dedicated fighter. You look at the guys he's sparring with. I just know for a fact that these guys are taking it easy on him. Yeah, I know for a fact.
I just think that the thing though is that like I just think Chandler. I think what it comes down to is just like I think his chin is taking like too much damage over the years, and I think I think he always also manages to screw it up always. And I just like I can't expect him to fight smart. Right. And I think if he tries to stand with Conor, he's gonna get knocked out no matter how much time Conor has gone off. You know what I mean? Right. Like Conor's a really great striker, and that's not something you lose. Like, you know, you see guys who've retired for years, these great strikers, they come back and they're still great. Floyd Mayweather, you know, that guy
he didn't look so hot against Dustin Poirier.
In the second fight, he won the first round. And he was winning.
Okay, yeah.
He was winning the whole fight.
I thought you were alluding to the trilogy. My bad. I was like,
trilogy was also like.
I understand, but he was getting his ass kicked on the ground too. And here's the thing. Here's my point. Conor McGregor in the first minute is the champion of the world. He's the pound for pound number 1.
So is Michael Chandler. That's just how Chandler is too.
True.
He's got so much muscle to carry. He wants to like. I don't even like. It's not even the factor about gassing out at the end of the day for me. It's the factor that I think Chandler is there to put on an entertaining fight rather than win the fight. And I think for him to be an entertaining fight is his back and forth war. And you just, no matter how old Conor is, no matter how many years he's gone away from the sport, he's still a great striker.
He is.
Here's one thing that I would like to comment on. Yeah. So for that first round thing, right? I feel like just the angle the shots come from, because Chandler loves that right overhand and Conor loves that left straight. I seriously just feel like if they're throwing it at the same time, I think Conor's beating that every time.
He's quicker.
Also,
I think
Conor has more variety, I feel.
He's also the longer reach.
Yeah. Like with Michael Chandler, there's points where he literally stands there with his hands down, letting Dustin Poirier land like a 4-punch combo on him. I think he just does dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Doing dumb stuff early versus Conor might mess him up. But I just really feel like if he stays and he survives, I feel like Conor's just not built to do that round after round anymore.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just his leg and his body, dude. His mind, he wilts so easily. And even if Michael Chandler gets tired, that's still a guy that's like dedicated to the sport. This is a guy who knows that his win money to get up there and win is going to change his life. Conor McGregor, when he's in the deep waters, like he just doesn't want it anymore. He loves the hype. He's hyped up when he gets in there. Dude, I'm telling you, he takes a couple of those low kicks from Michael Chandler. I could just see him being stiff, slow, like a little bit uncoordinated, looking old. And Michael Chandler
So did Tony, though.
blitzing him, dude.
Tony looked old in that fight.
But Tony looked fast on the feet, and Tony, unlike Conor, it was not inactive. Like this is before Tony's ever been KO'd. And the thing is, Michael Chandler took Tony down and beat his ass as well in that round. So I just think here's the thing. If Michael Chandler wants to make it an exciting fight and doesn't want to wrestle at all, sure, Conor has a chance. I still think Chandler hits him with Chandler's just a different kind of beast. And I feel like in order to destroy a Michael Chandler, you have to be like a Dustin Poirier. You have to be a guy who is a ranked fighter. And I don't think Conor McGregor is ranked material at this point in his career. I think it's going to look like, this is the perfect analogy. It's going to look like Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler if it were in 2019 instead of 2021. It's going to look like Robbie Lawler, just toying with him and then knocking him out. I think that's what it's going to look like. Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler, but just in 2019 as opposed to 2021. I think so.
I don't know. I just think we're giving too much credit to Chandler. You know what I mean? Like he's getting up there.
It's not even that. It's just that Conor, I'm taking it away from Conor. That's what it is.
Here's what I think about that though, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like with the stage Michael Chandler's at with his career, I feel like he's sort of coming to terms with the fact that he's not going to be UFC champion.
Yeah.
And I feel like if he's going to try to grow his brand and still be relevant and stuff like that, despite these losses, there's a big chance that he's going to be looking, especially for the exciting fight, because he can mix in the wrestling and just try to win. But what's that going to benefit him? He's going to go out there and get knocked out by Arman Tsarukyan after that. You know what I mean? If he goes out there and just puts on exciting fights and gets known as the exciting fighter, then he could just go out there and he could fight Patty Pimblett next or something.
Do you think he's gonna brown nose Conor to the point to where he like just straight up throws the fight? And this sounds silly, but
no, he's not gonna throw the fight.
Do you think Michael Chandler is actually going to try to knock Conor out? Like, I don't think he's gonna wrestle. I think he's gonna give Conor that respect. But
I think he wants to go out there and just get to it and have as good of a fight as he possibly can. He's talked about it too when he called him out.
Yeah, I saw him today also.
The most exciting fighter is.
So do you guys think like he's going in there to take Conor's head off?
I don't think he's going there to win. I mean, I think he's going there to win in an exciting fashion. You know what I mean? Like I don't think he's like going there like to win by all means.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I think
I don't think he is either. But what I'm worried about, and this is an actual concern of mine, I'm actually worried that Michael Chandler will have so much respect for Conor that he might actually like purposely fight like a fool. Just to see, okay, let's see if Conor still has it. I'm gonna feed him my chin real quick, and I'll put my hands down.
I could see that.
Well, if that happens, then it doesn't really. That's what I'm scared of.
I'm telling you guys,
Michael Chandler goes in and actually tries to just win, and even stand with him and make it entertaining. I think he knocks Conor out in the first round. And I wouldn't say this about any other lightweight. It's just Conor, dude. The guy is not the same. He's crazy, dude. He's just a crazy man.
I agree with you that I think Chandler, as far as what he can do, is just higher than Conor right now. But it's like, I think if Chandler fought smarter versus Justin and Dustin and Charles, he would have been able to win those too. He's just not smart. I feel like he's
gonna do something to screw it up.
Dumb shit.
I hope he does, because I actually want. Who do you guys want to win?
Conor.
That's what I'm wondering.
Conor.
I want Conor to win.
Conor for sure.
It would definitely be more exciting for the sport. What do you think?
If Conor won?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I also think when it comes down to I feel like we're just expecting like on the feet, he's not gonna outstrike. I don't think he knocks out Conor. I think Conor's too hard to hit no matter what. He can stay long against Chandler. He's got a long reach.
So you think Conor's what? Okay, this is my question to some of you guys. Like, continue.
If he wins, if he beats Chandler, right? Because they're just saying it's more exciting for the sport. Who does he fight next?
That's a great question, because they're sure as fuck aren't going to put him against like Shavkat. They're sure as fuck not going to put him against Islam. So
Charles.
You could do him versus Charles. I feel like
He would lose that fight
No, I
should
think
do
he
the-
beats Charles if he beats Chandler.
I think they should do the RDA fight because they've wanted to do that a long while ago. And
RDA is not going to be the kind of guy to strike
Can-
with Conor. I think RDA destroys and
It
submits
could
him
be
in one
Charles. I think it's gonna be Charles because I think
I think it's more competitive than if he went out there against one of the top guys. Though I think there is a chance that you could really sell Conor versus RDA as something special, and then he'll just go back to the point where he's at if he loses. Where
But
it's like
I just think that the UFC should have set him up with the like a Paddy Pimblett.
just let Patty get his ass kicked.
Yes,
Yeah.
man. Because I think that
kinda
Conor,
would.
I think that, listen, for me, a win over Paddy Pimblett does more for Conor in the sense that, like, dude, people do not like Paddy Pimblett at this point, and they kind of want to see him get completely derailed and finished for real this time. And if Conor gets a win over a young guy, and you kind of build him up and market it as a tune-up fight, and he gets a big KO where he's actually likely to win, then you do the Michael Chandler. Then you do something else. The thing is, to me, a Michael Chandler fight sets him up for failure. So there's really nothing but a retirement fight when he's 38 next. So that's why, to me, it just doesn't do much.
I think what it comes down to is that at the end of the day, Conor is only gonna do fights that are gonna wake him up, keep him like make him wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning to go on a run.
That
He's
is a
not
good
gonna
point.
do like a fight against Paddy Pimblett that won't like motivate him at all. You know what I mean? So maybe it is better he's fighting Chandler because maybe this will be like maybe he knows that like he has to train hard or else he's gonna lose his fight. You know what I mean? So I think that could be a huge I think that's the reason why he is doing that fight. And I think that could really make us see a better version of Conor.
That is
Maybe
true.
not. Maybe still he's not going to be like himself in 2016, but like maybe just like better than it would have been against like Tony or Patty something.
What if you did Conor? Because Nick Diaz has said that he doesn't want to be done with fighting. And I know you guys are against retirement fights. And you guys probably want Nick Diaz to be totally done.
Yeah.
But if Nick Diaz wanted to keep fighting, what if they did Conor McGregor versus Nick Diaz at 170?
If Conor loses, yeah. Conor loses, yeah.
If he loses, I don't mind that.
Yeah.
He'll win that fight. See, to me, the only way Conor can actually win a fight is if you're putting him in there with a guy like,
Tony.
Pimblett or Jared Gordon or below. I
Do
just,
you know they could
I
do
just can't
Tony.
pick him.
They could do Tony. If Conor loses, they're gonna do Tony versus Conor.
I kind of don't want to see Tony versus Conor, though. I feel like it's just like
I think that's a great fight.
size
if he
Tony was
loses.
at. He's just going to get his ass beat and people are going to stop respecting him.
It's not a good fight.
Yeah. I think that Tony, I'm kind of happy that he's not coming back either. I'd like to see Tony retire. Personally, I think it'd be really cool if Tony Ferguson were to do some grappling matches, maybe call Habib out for like a grappling match. That would be really cool. I think that would be marketable. The UFC puts on their grappling fights on Fight Pass.
He's gonna go spit some game to some girl he saw on the side.
Hey, go for it. That's takes balls. You got to step down on someone. It takes some balls.
It's at least it's not on the online apps, you
At
know.
least it's not on the apps, bro. He's coming back. He's coming back.
Yeah, I didn't feel like running up.
Hey,
There was
yeah.
distance.
Anyway, I wanted to say that I think that my next question to people that are picking Conor is like, from what Conor's been doing, why should we expect him to come back and actually look like somewhat of a decent version of himself? Like, what version of Conor do you think is showing up? If you could relate him to anything else, do you think he's going to be as good as the Conor that came back to fight Dustin Poirier? I personally just don't even think it's possible.
I think it's gonna be different. I think it's gonna be different. I also think it has to do with the opponent. I think Dustin's a lot better than Chandler is.
He's a southpaw too. Difficult.
Connor does great. No, Connor is great against orthodox. Fighters.
Yeah.
That's what we got to remember too. Connor does great against orthodox fighters. And I think that like we get a Chandler who's taken so much damage over the years, a Chandler who is getting up there in age, has killed himself to make weight for years. When Conor has, obviously drinking and stuff isn't ideal, but he's recovering overall, like his chin, everything. I think the years off could be good for that kind of stuff sometimes. Like we saw with Luke Rockhold, like 3 years off really benefited his chin, So I think that we're going to see a refreshed Conor. I think the Ultimate Fighter will really get him more motivated. I think it'll get him to to look back at his older days and maybe want to relive those days. I think that Ultimate Fighter factor is huge. reason why
That's
I'm
that's
going to
an
be picking
interesting
Conor
point.
also. But yeah, no, I just think Chandler. I mean, I just think Chandler is so dumb of a fighter. And I just think he's going to try striking with him like an idiot. And I think he's just getting knocked out. But in terms of what Conor will we see, like I don't necessarily think this Conor that we see is going to be able to beat a Dustin Poirier. If he's gonna be able to beat a top level guy, I just don't think Chandler is that great. You know what I mean? I think he always manages to screw it up. He's gonna try to fight entertaining and like I think Connor's levels above in his striking. I think he's just gonna fucking knock him out, you know?
I
Or he
agree.
gets the chance to shoot for a takedown.
I agree with you on the point of Chandler fighting stupid and trying to be entertaining. But like, out of 10, what would you rate Connor's striking?
I
At the
think
moment, at the
we don't
moment,
know. We don't know. Like we don't know. But I think
I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be real. I can give you a decent rating. If Conor in his prime for MMA was like a 9.5, a 10, I think that Conor's 2018 version would be, if anything, like a 9.2. 2022 version, 2021 version, I mean, would be like a 8, maybe a 8. Maybe I think now he's down to a 7, to be honest. I think Conor McGregor is at best a 7 out of 10. I think he's older. He's 34. And this is a guy, again, like you're comparing Conor, who's had his foot out of the game, that's taken all these layoffs, that has these crazy injuries. And man, we didn't see Anderson Silva bounce back from that injury so great, the leg injury. And I just don't think it's going to work well for Conor. I think he's really going down that path to where he just doesn't have it anymore. And we're not talking about a young man. We're talking about a guy that's made it. He's waking up in silk sheets. The biggest thing for me is, who is he training with? Like, I know Conor McGregor is not getting humbled in the gym. I know this guy is not really getting the toughest work in the gym. Who is he training with? I don't need like world-class top 5 lightweights in the gym with him. I'm just saying, like, come on, like, how often do we see Conor McGregor training with some badass wrestlers, like some guys that are judokas? When do we really see Conor with anyone other than some guy who's got like the typical high school look that looks like he just got out of school? You know what I mean? Like some bigger, tall, like lanky kickboxer that's on his second year of training. Those are the guys that I feel like Conor's training with. Maybe some Bellator fighters. I just don't think he's training with guys that keep him sharp. And all this muscle just makes him stiff, dude. It's just going to make him stiffer.
So I got two things on that. So I feel like, as far as his training partners and stuff like that, I feel like his loyalty and how much he brags about like his loyalty, that's sort of like his issue, because I don't think, what's his name, John Kavanagh, is a good coach for Conor. I don't feel like there's lots of good training partners for him available there. But I think that just his mindset and how he's like, these are the people that brought me up, I got to stay with them. If he left them years ago, like if he left them after he became double champ, he might be in a very different place than he is now, you know?
Yeah.
But then, as far as an argument in favor of Conor, and this is totally question mark, we don't know. He has done everything except confirm that he's on something right now, you know, that's going to aid in his recovery and stuff like that. And I feel like if it refreshed his body a little bit, took a few years off, and allowed him to also train hard enough that he like undid some of that ring rust, you know, if he normally could have trained like 2 hours a day, now he's on something so he could train 4 hours a day and get back to himself. He might have undid some of those years. I'm not predicting that. I'm just saying it's possible to imagine.
Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. I mean, listen, we know he's been on the sauce. He's admitted it himself. And I think that's going to do him only good. That's only going to do good things for him. Now, I actually will give Conor an advantage because this fight is at welterweight. It was announced today. I do give Conor the advantage at welterweight because he's actually fought there multiple times. I'm not 100% sure if Chandler's fought at welterweight before.
In his first fight, I believe.
First fight ever. But Conor McGregor's fought at welterweight on the highest levels. He's fought against Nate Diaz twice. The second time he really tried to build himself up into a welterweight. And of course, he came back to fight Donald Cerrone at welterweight as well. I think that's going to benefit him. You know, he's used to that. Michael Chandler, if he gasses out at 55, he might gas out a little quicker at welterweight too. For me, it's just that it's just the explosivity and the guy who's more in touch with the game. And like Chandler doesn't take breaks, bro.
Now, obviously, just the experience and making that cut, that's obviously going to benefit Conor. But I feel like, as a who's the bigger man, Michael Chandler, I feel like physically has more mass, and when you're cutting weight and stuff,
I
like
agree.
some of that doesn't get replenished after you rehydrate. So if Chandler's cutting a little bit less weight, it
Yeah.
might almost exemplify that size advantage where Conor already isn't. I don't think he's even big enough to fight at 170. Like I feel like he
He's
doesn't
not.
really fully belong there. So I feel like it might make the size advantage just a little bit even more prevalent
Right.
than if Chandler was killing himself to cut down.
I mean, yeah, this is a guy that used to fight at 145. He's not naturally like a 70 pounder. He is a 155er, I think. I think, you know, he's been on the sauce, but I think a lot of that muscle is going to go out the window when he comes off. And first of all, I'm not really an expert on how guys are able to go into their fights, you know, when they were saucing in the offseason and actually retain some of the benefits that they got when they were juicing, because I do know that when you do hop off of things, your hormones kind of get out of whack because your testosterone dips. And I don't know. I mean, we've definitely seen guys fight like off the juice, like John Jones and shit like that. But is there a chance Connor's going to come back worse because he's been saucing so hard and now he has to get clean?
Definitely.
Because maybe his hormones are going to be out of whack. I don't know.
I think they have a whole plan for Conor though. Like
They probably
I
have
think,
a whole plan for him.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think the UFC is playing it really smart. They saw how unsuccessful last year was. They don't remember the last time they sold a big pay-per-view or a lot of pay-per-view numbers. Like, and I think that they're gonna be doing this the right way. I wouldn't even be surprised if they let it Conor like maybe not be on the juice, but like do like a shorter USADA testing thing, you know, just so that he can come in like not too long off the sauce, you know what I mean?
If there's anyone the UFC would allow doing that, it's Conor. So the next question I have is, are you going to be looking at the Ultimate Fighter for any kind of an edge on who you're leaning towards? Will the Ultimate Fighter solidify your pick? Will it have any effect on your pick, seeing both of these guys and how they carry themselves?
Yeah, I would say so because I think Conor, I mean, like if Conor goes in like the nice guy, all that stuff, I think Chandler has the advantage. But if Connor's like super intense and all that, I think he's gonna that shows that he's actually like really motivated for the fight, you know? Because I think we've always seen the best Conor when he was super intense and trash talking all that.
Not the last one.
No, I mean not the last one because he snapped his leg, but then the time before he was the nice Conor.
He looked way better, and then he looked nice. He looked way better against Donald Cerrone and Dustin Poirier too as the nice guy.
But I mean, the third fight, it was very quick. Like, I mean, the first, like, he snapped his leg literally, like, we didn't see that much striking exchange. Remember, Dustin Poirier, Conor tried getting him in a guillotine or whatever, and Poirier was beating up on ground and pound. So we didn't really see much of Conor on the feet. So I don't know if we should go with that. But yeah, no, I just think I just think Conor like is gonna if he's getting mean and all that stuff, it means he's motivated, I believe, you know. It means he's intense about it, and I think it means he's training hard. So yeah, but
I'm not. Are you done or are you still talking?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't put too much stock in it just because like they're professional fighters and obviously trash talking like forever in sports has been just something try to get in their head and stuff like that. We're on a college campus. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Wait a second. All right, but I just feel like when it comes to this stuff, right? I feel like they're professional fighters, and the way it affects them is invisible when it comes to whether Conor is going to be trash talking and stuff like that. We just don't know. There's obviously been some times where Conor's been able to get in his opponent's head and stuff like that, but sometimes he might have won and they just weren't affected. He would have won either way. We just can't know. They're professional fighters. They mentally can handle themselves. No matter what he says or whatever isn't going to affect how I see the fight.
I completely understand that. I get the notion of these guys are pros, like, you know, their mentality when they're showing themselves on screen, it doesn't really affect like what they're doing in the gym or what they're going to be doing in the midst of the fight. I completely understand that. But the only thing that would basically change my perception of Conor going into this is if he is, you know, batshit crazy, you know, looking like he's completely deluded, completely lost it. And it has nothing to do with damage that he's taken. It has nothing to do with that. It's just his ego mixed with the money, mixed with the fame. Like, I just think Conor is the kind of guy that can spiral out of control. And there are certain human beings that just have this intensity about them, and that makes them more prone to getting caught up in this hysteria, dude. If Conor looks like he's hysterical on the show and he looks like he's losing it, then I'm looking at a guy that is coming back for the wrong reasons. Is coming back to just fuck someone up, and he doesn't really believe it himself. He's just kind of tricking himself into believing it. But if I get just an intense Conor, or a Conor that's just trash talking, or even a calm Conor, I don't read into it too much. I'm just saying, if this guy looks like he's literally batshit crazy, that is not a good thing for me. That's not a good thing.
I think I was just kind of misunderstanding what you were saying there then, because I was thinking that you were saying, like, with the build up to the event, and since we're going to have a whole bunch of Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor interacting, if Conor's just totally coming up with the most clever comebacks for Chandler, is that going to affect things?
No. I hope there's trash talk. I think that's why it's going to be fun, because listen, I don't watch The Ultimate Fighter. The last episode I ever watched was Volkan Ortega, and I couldn't get past the first. There was just nothing there. They've had Whitaker and Gaslam. There's no trash talk. I think you need guys that are going to trash talk. And although Michael Chandler has been brown nosing Conor recently, I think that, Conor McGregor is the perfect guy to revive that show, and I'll be tuning in every goddamn night. And I know that we're going to see some promo after the first episode of an all-out fight that these guys are having, like, next week. And you see Conor McGregor yelling at Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler at some point is going to lose it. He seems to be a guy that's very composed, but I could just see him snapping at some time if Conor goes at him. He said today, if Conor brings up his family, he's going to knock him out on screen. So it should be fun. It should be fun.
You think that benefits Conor, though, if he gets in his head?
I don't think it. I honestly think that Michael Chandler is, at this point, the guys that are fighting Conor are going to be completely prepared for this. Completely prepared for the mental game. I think so. I think it won't affect him, but I could see it pissing him off. I don't think it'll affect the fight. I could see it like affecting him in the now, but yeah.
One more question.
Will you be watching, guys? Will you be watching the Ultimate Fighter? I definitely will this year.
Yeah, I will.
I think I might watch some of the fights that happen on it.
Yeah.
But it just, the whole reality TV thing, I've never been super into it. I'll see some clips, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I've seen The Bachelor, bro. I used to watch The Bachelor back in the day. No, not The Bachelor. The Bachelorette. The Bachelorette, bro. I used to watch that shit because you can't relate to the fucking 20 girls, but you can kind of make fun of the guys. You know what I mean? I used to watch that show when I was a younger guy. I don't mind reality.
How many pay-per-view numbers do you guys think this is going to sell? Because they were talking about it today being like, could potentially be the biggest ever. And I don't buy that, but I think it will be like high one mils.
I think it's gonna maybe sell like 2 million, but it won't break Khabib and Conor.
I think with that reputation Chandler has for exciting fights, everyone's gonna want to buy it. Plus, I feel like just so much promotion and all the clips that are going to be going viral of Conor shit talking Chandler. I really think it'll be probably not as big as the Khabib one, but I think it'll be his biggest UFC pay-per-view after.
I think so too. This is going to be bigger than Poirier, because although the fans like Poirier, like, I think casuals can gravitate towards Michael Chandler a little more, especially just based on how he looks like a guy you could gravitate towards, like, for a casual fan, like jacked, like big puncher. Whereas Dustin Poirier flies under the radar unless you're a real fan of MMA and you recognize like how fun his fights are, how exciting his fights are, because Dustin is arguably like the most exciting fighter. But anyway, I think that I think it'll be fun. I think it really will be fun. I think you're right, man. I think this is going to sell a lot. So I'm looking forward to it.
They gotta do MSG.
MSG.
Do MSG.
November.
They should do that. If they're smart, they would do that.
All right. Well, I think we should move on to the next topic. What is the next topic, Jacob?
So we're coming up on the week. You never know it. The UFC is promoting the slap box, whatever, more than this fight. But Islam, I wanted to go over our Islam versus Volk final predictions, and then the Yair versus Emmett final predictions real quick. And then we got some more debates coming up. So,
all right. So Jared, Naeem, you guys can go first. One of you guys give your prediction for Volkanovski versus Islam, and let us know why you think that's the way this fight's going to go down.
So I think you're going to give Volk more of a chance than I am, but I think we're both kind of agreeing that Islam's going to kick his ass.
Yeah, there's no wrestling in Australia, man.
Yeah, I saw that. Islam said that. Volk actually has a wrestling background. Apparently, that's what he said.
It's not like real wrestling.
It's New Zealand wrestling or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
He played rugby, and then so he has the physicality, he has the tackles, and then he's a wrestling national champ in Australia or something like that. But it's not the same. It's not the same.
I think that all those accolades and stuff like that go out the window when you're actually fighting there, though. Because I mean, there's some people that have like 14 million accomplishments or whatever, and they never put it together. Like dude, Alexander Karelin or whatever, who's like greatest wrestler of all time, had like 600 matches of a win streak or whatever. I think he's like 1-1 in MMA or something like that. I could just be talking out of my ass. I could be wrong.
When was he fighting in MMA? What part of his career?
It was like early, like Pride and stuff like that. Some people even
wow.
think. But there's some better examples if I went down to it. Dan Severn.
Henderson.
I was gonna say Dan Severn. There were some fights, like the way he fought Royce Gracie as the bigger man, even though he had like a judo background and some sambo and stuff like that, he just took him down, laid in his guard, and then got submitted. Like some people just don't know how to fight, even if they know how to wrestle. Not that he doesn't know how to fight. Dan Severn's a legend, but I mean, it didn't carry over as well as it could have, I think. I just think that doesn't matter for me.
So where can Volkanovski actually like edge out rounds? Is there a way for him to edge out rounds in this one? And if so, how does he do it?
That's him.
Striking. He's faster. Okay. He out-jabbed Holloway. Holloway is 5'11".
Yeah.
Volk is 5'6".
Yeah. He's got a long reach. He's got a long reach for a guy who's 5'6".
Exactly. Islam's 5'10" and can't box like Holloway. So
no.
He's getting pieced on the feet.
Okay, what do you think about the idea that, Volkanovski, he can talk about, not being afraid of the takedown, expecting it to come anyway, but how does that affect him mentally with his offense? Do you think he'll actually be confident enough to go in there and just really freely strike with a guy like Islam, or do you think that threat of the takedown will allow Islam Makhachev to catch a guy like Volkanovski on the feet?
I think he still goes out there and tries to strike with him.
Okay.
I think he plays it obviously more cautiously, but it's not like as soon as he throws a kick, Islam's just gonna take him down. Like when you're an effective striker, not an experienced, but you're an effective striker. Like there's a difference. You can not take a risk, but like you can do a little bit more. You have a little bit more of a what's it called? Like an area of failure. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I can't think of the word right now, but yeah, I think Volk strikes, and I think he strikes cautiously until Islam finally does take him down or gets a hold of him, and then that's when we see Volk like kind of fall, because then I don't think he's strong enough to really fight Islam in that area. Even with him bulking up, it's just not gonna happen. He's too small.
Now, one thing I do want to say before I go to you, Jacob, is, Volkanovski for sure, he is not the biggest 45er, but he still has tremendous cuts at 45. I don't know if Volkanovski is any smaller than a Justin Gaethje. I don't know if he's any smaller. No, of course he's shorter. I don't know if he's any like less powerful or less strong than a Justin Gaethje, or who's another guy in that division that I could think of, maybe like who's a classic lightweight, Paul Felder. I know he's retired, but a guy like that, I think Volkanovski is going to be a decent sized lightweight. I just think that everyone is at a strength disadvantage, and ultimately the grappling is Volkanovski has not been grappling since he's been 4 years old, like Islam. You know what I mean? So what were you going to say?
I was about to say that. Like, he's strong as shit. Don't get me wrong, but it's Islam.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
I also feel like weight-wise, even if he's physically big enough, like just your frame, it does matter. And even if he has the weight in order to make to not the weight, sorry, the reach in order to make up for the fact that he's like 2 feet tall. It's just like when it comes to some of these things, like your ability to create like leverage and stuff like that. And in wrestling, there were leg riders, and it would always be some tall, skinny, lanky guy that could do it that you'd never expect to be that good. Your ability to use your legs to create leverage, it just is so much easier for taller people. Like Charles Oliveira, the reason he's so good at those triangles and stuff like that is because being a tall, long guy helps. He has those Gumby limbs to be going out there and grappling triangles from all angles. Like I feel like people really look at grappling and they think like, oh, shorter guy, lower center of gravity. That helps you with when you're shooting, obviously. But for almost everything else, like being tall is an advantage in a lot of ways. Especially with like the trips and stuff like that. He's get like if he clinched with Volk, like and had like double underhooks or something like that, you know what I mean? Volk's gonna be up on his tippy toes, like Stipe versus Daniel Cormier. They're in their third fight. There were some times where they were clinching, and DC was up on his tippy toes, unable to actually stand and wrestle with him and stuff like that, just because he was so far out of his stance, grappling with someone who's like 6'4" when he's like 5'2".
Yeah.
That height, it means a difference even in the wrestling. It really does.
And you know, Jacob, before I get to you, I want to ask you guys. Volk is always talking about he's expecting the takedown. He has to be ready to get taken down, but it's holding him down, which is going to be the issue. I can see Volkanovski maybe at some point getting up to his feet. We've seen guys get up. We've seen guys stuff takedowns from Islam. I just think that when Islam actually gets him in a nice position, I think that Volk is fucked. Like Islam's his skill set's just too good to let someone up. And Jacob, what do you make of Volk's rugby explosiveness, and how will that play into this fight?
I think I don't think it'll mean a single thing. I think he can think whatever he wants, his delusional mind, from that shitty ass division he was in. When he gets in the cage with Islam, I think it's over. You know, I think Islam has an advantage everywhere. Like obviously Volk is the better overall striker, but Islam's got way more power. Like, and I don't think Volk is gonna strike how he normally strikes when there's a threat of the takedown. You know, and I could even see Islam dropping Volk, you know, maybe even knocking him out on the feet. Who knows? You know, Volk got dropped by Chad Mendes, an old Chad Mendes. Got dropped. He got almost dropped by Holloway in the second fight from was it a head kick or something?
Yeah.
I think he almost got dropped twice in the second round. And I think Islam's way more powerful than Holloway. So Islam's harder to hit, you know, and I think what's going to end up happening, I think he's going to finish him in the first round, honestly. I think Islam
by submission.
I think I think ground and pound.
TKO.
You know, I think TKO in the first round, or he's just gonna put him to sleep with a submission, something like that. I don't really see Volk tapping. You know, I think Volk has too much dignity not to tap. Even though tapping, I wouldn't say he's quitting, but I just think Volk like is just very like, you know, we know how he is with like Ortega fight, you know, and I think that I don't see him tapping. So I think Islam will either put him to sleep straight up or just finish him with ground and pound. I just think that Volk can prepare all he wants, but when he feels Islam's strength, I don't think he's gonna have an answer for it. You know, Australia doesn't have real wrestling. Volk has never been tested in the wrestling department in his last, like at least his last 5 fights or whatever. He's been tested by guys who are lighter. You know, he's not gonna be ready at all. And I think he's in for a rude awakening.
Do you think he didn't tap to Ortega because he was defending the belt, or that's just his mentality?
I just think that's Volk. I think he doesn't quit. You know, I mean, he's like, it's not like, again, I don't want to say it's quitting, but like he just has so much dignity, Volk. I just like if he's gonna go out, he's gonna go out sleeping. So I think that's what it comes down to. And I just think
dude.
that
as a Volk fan who wants him in my top 5 all time, it's gonna suck having to deal with Volkanovski. Everyone clowning me going to my old fucking tier list, seeing Volk in the top 5, dude.
Yeah, and it shouldn't affect him that much.
Seeing him drop down so far, it's gonna
like it shouldn't affect Volk that much, but it will. You know what I mean?
It'll bump him down because he lost, and you know what I mean. Like, I'm gonna have to deal with Volk. People's telling me I'm a fool for the next 6 months.
But yeah, but I just think that it's gonna be either first round or like a third round. I would say, because I could see like maybe like Volk being a little bit tougher than Oliveira just because like he's a little bit less reckless. So I could maybe see it going in the third round. But like if I had to make prediction, I think first round though. So
So you think Islam's gonna get him down while he's dry?
I think
okay.
he's gonna get him down maybe after the first minute and a half or something like that. And I think when he gets him down, I just think he's gonna work a little bit. He's not gonna rush by any means. He's gonna land some ground and pound stuff like that. I think he's just gonna have a ton of control time. I think towards the end of the round, I think he finishes him, whether it's by a submission or by ground and pound. But I think maybe a ground and pound I would predict.
Yeah.
What about you, Lucas? Who do you have winning? Official prediction.
Well, I have Islam, and I think the first round is actually like not too unlikely. I'm thinking that either a first or a third round submission. I think that if it goes to the third round, I think Volk is just going to be a little bit tired from grappling with Islam. Like, sure, Volk has great cardio, but we've seen
He's never been tested in the.
He hasn't been tested with the grappling with the guy who is as strong and heavy as Islam, who can make you work on the ground. I think that's going to tire him out, and I think Islam will get a submission in the third round. Or I think that Islam Makhachev could find Mount in the first round. He could get Mount on Volk, and I think that he'll find a submission or a TKO. I honestly think so, and I think the ref is going to step in. If it's a TKO, I don't think Volk's going to go out cold. I think it's just going to be like unanswered shots. Some people are picking like a KO, like a knee in the clinch. I don't know if that's likely. I can't see Volkanovski getting KO'd in the clinch.
No.
I can see him getting hurt on the feet at some point, but I think it's likely that Islam either gets a mount in the first round, or I think Islam maybe like a Kimura. Maybe he can go for a Kimura, one like a submission where he can really use all of his strength. Or I think he's just going to wear on Volk in the clinch, take him down, and slowly, methodically tire him out, and then find a submission in the third. That's what I'm going to go. Now, if Volkanovski does win this fight,
no way.
Now, here's my thing. If Volkanovski, I think it's more likely that Volkanovski beats Islam by knockout than he does by decision. And I think in order for Volkanovski to win this fight, I honestly think that he would have to, of course, on the feet, make Islam miss and then come in with a massive shot, like a huge shot, like a Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal, like a big lightweight Volk shot. I think that's the chance he has for victory. But dude, Volk's gonna have to. That's very unlikely. That's his path to victory for me. He's gonna have to come in, make Islam miss, and counter with like a big right hand. That's his way to win. Yeah. And then send Islam flying back, and then land some really good shots like Bisping did to Rockhold back in the day, up against the fence, or maybe a Yoel to Rockhold.
I just can't see it.
I can't see it either. I'm just saying. I know that Volkanovski, I've seen him time and time again make guys miss and land like a really fast combination with his hand, like a 3-4 punch combo ending with a body kick or a leg kick. I don't think he's going to be throwing as many kicks. He loves to go with a lead kick to the body. That's one of Volk's signature moves. I don't think he's going to be throwing many of those. I'm just saying if he does find the knockout, it's going to come from one of those flurries. I just think that Islam is too defensively sound. Like, I think that I have to give him tons of credit because he is really hard to hit, and he's had rounds where he's standing on the feet with guys, and he just has this really tight defense. He doesn't take risks anymore ever since he got knocked out back in the day. He's got a tight guard. He's got a good chin, good cardio, which helps his chin too. I think it's a first round TKO or submission or a third round submission. So yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit of a buzzkill just because the card isn't so great anyway. There are some entertaining fights, but it's just going to end so early that you're going to feel like there wasn't even a fight. I think that's what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think Volk, I can't see it. He's not knocking out 45ers. How's he going to knock out the best 55er with the best?
Exactly.
It just doesn't add up, and I think Volk has too much dignity to realize this. You know what I mean? Like, he's such a confident guy.
To be fair, I think that Volkanovski, like, if there is a guy that, listen, if it were anyone else, like if Volk were taken on, I think Volk beats Charles, to be honest. I think he beats
But I think in terms of having
I
the
think
best
Volk
shot
would beat
against,
Poirier. I think you would fuck Poirier up.
I don't
to
know
be
about
honest.
that.
Poirier went to war with Holloway.
Well, Poirier beat him
and
twice. He
Poirier
him,
beat Holloway twice. Volk beat him 3 times,
but
and had Volk's first fight and third fight with Holloway made Poirier's fights with Holloway look like, you know, those guys were in fucking
but that was
grade.
after though. That was after Poirier fought him though. After the war with Poirier.
Yeah, I know, but I just think Volkanovski is I don't think Dustin Poirier is a top 5 striker. I think Volkanovski's a number 1 striker. And I think that
I think there's a huge
his
power
IQ,
difference though.
the way he can fight from both stances, whereas Poirier is mostly a southpaw. His reach is there. I think that Volkanovski, I think he would really, really give Poirier a tough fight. It'd be close, but I think Volkanovski takes out any striker in the lightweight division.
I think Fiziev smokes him.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting because I could see it. He has the power. He has the experience.
I think he KOs him. I think he KOs Volk.
I don't think that that's impossible. Jared, what do you think? Fiziev versus Volkanovski. Who would you pick?
You're going Volk?
I would go Volk.
I really want
any striker at lightweight.
I want to see Fiziev against more top dudes, but I mean, like the way he looked against Bobby Green, I can picture him getting outboxed hard.
That's what I'm saying, man. I've seen him get destroyed by Bobby.
He's fast like that. Sorry about that. What are you saying?
No, yeah. No, Bobby Green landed like, 60 significant strikes on him in the 3rd round.
He's also gotten better since then. He's young. He's very young.
For sure. But the thing is, Volkanovski is a high volume striker. He has a high pace and he gasses guys out by the way he puts pressure on them. Fiziev, ever since the Bobby Green fight, he's been extremely reserved. Like he takes his time, he's reserved. I don't think Volkanovski gives him that ability. I think Volkanovski makes him go right into it, puts him on the back end. And I think Fiziev has to fight defensively. And I think he would gas out. And I think the Volkanovski, I think he really pieces him up, to be honest. I think Fiziev, I understand he's great. I just think that the pure Muay Thai, as good as he might be, MMA striking is just a little bit different. I think Volkanovski's mastered it.
But Volkanovski hasn't gotten hit by a big guy like that, though. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know how he's going to do. And I think that is true. It's a huge dip. Fiziev is one of the most powerful strikers in that division, one of the most accurate strikers. And if he lands in his chin, Volk may go out. Like, he straight up may go out. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. But I don't know. I mean, I think he does well against a Charles, maybe. Unless he gets strangled by Charles. I think there's a chance he gets
I think Charles could if Charles gets him down, I think Charles, obviously would submit him.
But at the same time, I could also see Volk just being way too fast for him, Charles being too easy to hit.
I could see him dropping Charles. I could see him dropping him and just keeping it on the feet.
I don't know if he drops. I
think he could drop Charles, bro.
He couldn't drop Korean Zombie much.
He did. He dropped him.
But like Korean Zombie,
I watched that fight back. Actually, I watched that fight back. He dropped him twice. In that fight.
But like it's Korean. Like I don't know.
Korean Zombie is known for having one of the best.
But he was like 36 at that. Ortega knocked him out. No.
Ortega didn't knock him out. Ortega dropped him, but Volkanovski dropped him more than Ortega.
And he was older though. I don't know.
But my point is, I don't think you could say that. I don't think you could say that he wouldn't drop Charles if just he literally dropped Korean Zombie. Like he
yeah, but that's not like I don't think that's like a huge accomplishment. You know what I mean? Like dropping like a 45
but Volkanovski. I understand that, but he's knocked guys out like on his come up. The only guys
those are lower level guys
are the only guys he hasn't knocked out that he's actually like teed off on were Ortega, who is one of the best chins in the UFC, and Max, who has the best chin in the UFC. And I understand the 45ers. He did not knock out Aldo. Yeah, that's true.
He finished Mendes, right?
He did finish Mendes.
Yeah.
He would have. I mean, he did drop the Korean Zombie, and he would have dropped him and knocked his ass out if that fight continued. He beat the Korean Zombie so bad.
Yeah, but
the ref at the stand did while he was on the feet.
Sometimes it's not about the power though. Like
that's what I mean. Volk, I just think Charles doesn't move his head. I think Volk drops him, but continue.
I think everybody drops Charles, to be honest. But
I agree.
But what I'm saying, like with Volk, like you saw how Max looked after they fought. Like it's just demoralizing to get
Dude,
pieces.
that's what I'm saying.
You don't
Volk,
have to
like,
get knocked out. You just stop fighting because you're getting beat up.
that's
But
what I mean, bro. There's nothing more demoralizing than just getting boxed up for 25 minutes. Like I've sparred with guys before that were good boxers. And although, like, for sure, I never actually fought these guys, but it does suck having no answer. It sucks. And Volkanovski does that to everyone. And I just think that, you know, bro, I don't see any other guy in MMA right now that can do it like Volk.
yeah, but Charles, what if Charles has a ton of power, and what if he comes out
He
super aggressive and just fucking knocks him out? And
I don't think he
strangles him?
could. I don't think he could touch Volk like that. I don't. I don't think he could land it like that. I think Volkanovski,
If
if
he
he's
goes
getting out of
in,
the way of all these other guys, if guys aren't clipping him like that, I don't think Charles is the
I
guy
mean,
to
if
do it. I
Korean
think
Zombie isn't clipping him, or
Korean
like,
Zombie wasn't clipping him.
yeah, but like Charles is more dangerous than those guys. Like Max Holloway, when was the last time he finished a guy? You know what I
No,
mean?
that's
Like,
a
when was the
fact.
last
That's a
time?
fact.
When was the last time Ortega like had a knockout? You know what I mean? Like
No,
these guys.
I get it. But one of the things that I also wanted to add is that when 45ers have moved up in the
They've
past,
done well.
they've done
Well. But it's
extremely
not
well.
been
Like
to Islam Makhachev though.
except
You know
yeah,
what I
Islam
mean?
and Khabib are different, but Charles moved up, Poirier moved up, Conor moved up, and they were
Mhm.
all basically
That's a
champions. You
good
know,
point. It's just unfortunate that he has to fight Islam. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's what I mean. Islam is in my opinion just Khabib 2.0.
I mean, look, like I'm not even trying to like gas like Islam up. Like I would obviously prefer Volk to win. You know what I mean? Like that would be amazing for the sport. I just can't see it happening. I just like
Yeah,
yeah, I just can't see it happening. And like, I mean, maybe he would do better against the Poirier Chandler. I mean Chandler, yeah, but like Poirier or a Fiziev or a Charles. But I don't think we'll ever see it. You know what I mean? Unless he wins, but which I just can't see it. So I don't know. I mean, I wanted to talk a little about another fight in the card. I actually have a new take on this next fight. We're going to talk about the Emmett versus Yair. I think Yair absolutely schools him straight up. You know, I was rewatching the Max Holloway Yair fight, and Max Holloway was not shooting takedowns was not part of his plan. Let's just say that he was getting like Yair was getting the better of him in those early rounds, I would say. And I don't think I feel like a lot of people forget about it, but I think Yair won the 5th round.
yeah,
You know, it was a closer fight than people remember. You know, like it wasn't like Max Holloway just running through him. You know, Max Holloway lost the 1st round. He edged out the 2nd round, lost, won the 3rd round, won the 4th round, lost the 5th round. So it's a very close fight. You know, it could have. I mean, I don't know if it could have went either. It was just very close. You know, and Yair was getting the better of him on the feet for a lot of the fight. And I think Josh Emmett, you know, he arguably lost to Calvin Kattar. He arguably lost to who did he fight before that?
Dan Ige.
Dan Ige.
I had Dan Ige winning that too.
Who Dan Ige? Like he lost to the Korean Zombie. Well, wait, who else did he, I mean, he knocked out Damon Jackson, but like Damon Jackson's like 40. You know, like Dan Ige is not a great fighter by any means, you know, and Josh Emmett arguably lost him. So I think Josh Emmett is not good at all. He's one of the least like deserving fighters ever. Both of these guys, I saw your YouTube video on it today. These are the 2 least deserving fighters to be fighting for about ever. That being said, I think Yair Rodriguez is a very good fighter though. You know, so I think he's gonna absolutely school Josh Emmett. And I think he's gonna finish him within the first 3 rounds, straight up. You know, I don't think Yair is not a great wrestler though, but Josh Emmett doesn't take people down really. So I don't think it'll come down to that. But I can't see a basic striker like Josh Emmett being able to handle all of like Yair's like creativity and stuff like that. So I think that's my prediction.
So I'm curious how Josh Emmett is going to deal with the leg kicks because yeah, Yair he does the fancy spitting stuff, but I feel like the reason why he gave Max Holloway so many issues is because that leg was there to get beat up by Yair. He was landing a lot of really good leg kicks, taking away a lot of the boxing from Max Holloway, so he can't be fighting at his best. And that's why I honestly feel like he's just such a good fighter. I really feel like the leg kicks, which are something that are easy to gloss over because he does so many techniques that not everybody's athletic enough to do. But I don't know if I've seen somebody go out there and leg kick Josh Emmett like that. And that's not me saying that it hasn't happened. I haven't watched enough of his career to know how he handles that. Either of you know how Josh Emmett responds to somebody that's just
I do know this. He's tore his ACL against Shane Burgos, and he had like 5 critical injuries in that. And he was limping around. He was in some kind of a cast after his fight with Calvin Kattar, even though Calvin Kattar didn't even chew up his leg that much. His leg is easily compromised.
Yeah, then that's something to weigh in, because like if you just generally believe that Yair is like a higher level of a striker, and I would agree with that. I think Josh Emmett's like, he's gritty and he hits hard, but I really don't
He's
think
kind of trash though, honestly. Let's be real. Josh Emmett's kind of a bad fighter. No, I mean he's not. He literally. Sorry, I'll talk about it after.
No, but I'm not sure I'd call him trash, but he's not that guy though.
Dude, I don't even think I'd have Emmett in my top 8 featherweights. I don't think he's in my top 8. I really wouldn't even put him in my top 8. Yeah, UFC. Like I think I could name 8 people that beat him in that division right now.
And you know 2 of them, Calvin Kattar and Dan Ige.
Well, yeah, okay, but outside of those,
Tapiria,
I'll say this: Ilia Tapiria, Arnold Allen, Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, Movsar Evloev. I think Evloev beats him too. I think
Bryce Mitchell.
I think Bryce Mitchell could beat him. I think who else? Brian Ortega. I think Brian Ortega could beat him too. And as I said, Ilia Tapiria. We've seen Calvin Kattar beat him. I think Giga Chikadze beats him. I think Giga pieces him up and ruins him on the feet. I really do. I think that Josh Emmett is not even a top 8 featherweight. I really don't think he is.
And how he got into this position, I don't know.
He's good. Like, he's good, but he's not a guy that should even be in the talks for an interim belt.
Just the fact that it's for an interim belt to me is just wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. Not everything needs to be for a belt. I feel like
yeah.
It honestly, because like I get what they're trying to do. It makes things sell more and more people are interested in it when it's an interim belt. But really all it's doing is it's sort of like tarnishing what that means. And the next interim belt they do, a little less people are going to be interested. If you keep it something really special where it's like these guys are definitely good enough to be the champion.
Like Tony and Gagey, something like that back in the day. That made a little bit more sense. Or, Poirier, Holloway, that was different.
When it's these are who would probably be champion if the champion wasn't here,
Yeah.
That's what makes sense. And right now I just don't feel like it's necessary, and it's just making it get to a point where it's like there's less respect put on that, and eventually people are going to be less interested in it.
Yeah. That's I'm less interested in this fight because Max Holloway would beat both of these guys. I think that Arnold Allen, Tapiria would beat both of these guys. So maybe not Arnold Allen, actually. Arnold Allen would have a tough fight with Yair, but I think Tapiria could. I don't know, man. Yair could give a lot of guys problems.
Would take Yair.
Would probably take him down. Yeah, he's easily taken down. What were you saying, Naeem?
I said, you think Tapiria beats Yair?
I think he could. I think he could take him down and submit him.
I'm thinking, if they absolutely had to do the interim belt thing, what if they had Tapiria involved and they either did Tapiria
Allen Tapiria
or
Tapiria.
Allen. Yeah,
that would be much better.
That it would make so much. I just really don't think Josh Emmett even remotely belongs in.
I've literally never seen a Josh Emmett fight in my life.
Dude, Emmett is like, Emmett's the kind of guy to have like a massive knockout over an unranked guy. And all of his ranked fights are just razor close because he has the power and he tends to knock guys down. But I just think that even Yair, this guy has had 4 fights since 2018. And that 2018 sounds like it was a few years ago. That's basically 5 years ago. 2 of those fights were losses, one to Max and one to Frankie back in the day. And I mean, like, for sure he beat Jeremy Stevens and he beat Brian Ortega, but this is not a guy that deserves to be fighting for a belt right now. And I understand that Yair versus Volk is interesting, but I think, like, again, an interim belt should be for the other guys that would be champion in this division. You don't want Max there because then there's a chance that Max could fight Volk again, and we don't want to see that.
Arnold Allen versus Yair.
Arnold Allen versus Yair, or Arnold Allen versus Tapiria. Like, that would just be better. I just think that, listen, even Yair is better than Josh Emmett. Like, both of these guys don't deserve it. I think that Tapiria is a guy that's gone on a longer streak. He's looked more impressive. He's got a big name now. Beating Bryce Mitchell, to me, is more impressive.
He's also never lost.
Never lost. Exactly. I mean, Yeah, I think that none of us are gonna pick
Josh Emmett.
Josh Emmett, but
Mr. Prelim.
I think
Prelim guy.
Yair is gonna TKO him.
think,
I think he's gonna knock him out in the second round. I think it's gonna be a head kick or maybe a body kick, and I think he'll TKO him or just hit him with one good head kick.
I think Josh Emmett, in a way, is kind of like anti-Yoel Romero. How Yoel Romero, people were always saying like, oh, he's really the best dude in the division. He's just on the wrong side of a couple decisions. Imagine.
But the thing is, Yoel was on the wrong side of those decisions in title fights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yair's against Dan Ige.
Yeah, Yair's against. Emmett's against like Ige. You know?
Emmett. Yeah. Emmett.
Yeah. Which is crazy. Like Dan Ige is not even a top 10 guy.
Dan Ige is arguably the greatest of all time. Put some respect on his name.
You know,
he knocked out Damon Jackson, guys.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that I just think it's a little bit of a. I think it'll be a fun fight. I think it will be more entertaining than the main event. But have you guys seen Jack Della Maddalena fight?
That's it. That's going to be a great fight. I think Jack Della, whatever you say his name, I think he's going to win the fight, but I don't think he should be a 3-1 favorite because I think Randy Brown he's pretty good actually, low key. I think he's entertaining.
All right, casual alert.
Yeah.
Randy Brown's the guy who's crazy, you know? Like,
no, I know Randy Brown. I'm not up to date on this fight, so
my gosh,
I thought
you have to look at Jack Della Maddalena. This is his, I think his third or fourth fight in the UFC. He was on the Contender Series in 2021. He made his debut last year.
How do I spell this ridiculous?
Jack Della 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 Mad Madda Lena like L-E.
Maddalena.
Yeah, he's got like a super flat nose. His nose is completely fucked.
What the hell happened?
But anyway, bro, I'm telling you, this guy has some dynamite in his hands and clean boxing. Like he's getting these welterweights with like body shot combo KOs. Like he is extremely good. And that's why he's a 3-1 favorite. Randy Brown is tough because he's obviously like, you know, he's got a lot of experience and he's the longer, rangier guy. He's got some really good striking, but Jack Della Maddalena is a guy that's seen as like one of the best up and coming prospects in the UFC. He has serious boxing. Like I'm saying like this guy KOs people with body shots. Like he's a really good striker. So this should be a fun fight. I'm looking forward to it.
For that fight.
And he's from Australia, so that's why it's also interesting.
Yeah. The rest of the card fucking sucks, honestly. Unfortunately.
Parker Porter versus Justin Taffa. That's
Justin Taffa's gonna kill him.
Yeah.
He's gonna kill him. That if you guys want a good bet on that. You know, straight up. Like you're gonna like Parker Porter made Chris
Parker
Dawkins
Porter is
good.
the fact that this guy's on the main card is
I'm not gonna lie, we're looking at highlights on my phone right now. No, this dude is I kind of like this dude.
Yeah, he has a weird style. He looks a little bit slow, but nonetheless, like his combos are really clean. He's a really slick striker, and his power, he has some weird power for the way that he moves. Yeah. Jack Della Maddalena, he's really good. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. I think this guy might be one of the best strikers in the welterweight division. But yeah, I think the rest of the card's kind of trash. There are some fun fights, but as far as name value goes, it's not there.
Not great.
At least the UFC's promoting it now. I'm happy about that. But if Volk wins, all I'm saying, if Volk wins, that'll be one of the best days of my life. As an MMA fan, that is. Yeah. That'll be like Conor KOing Khabib. But maybe not as hype. But
Conor's a bigger personality and stuff.
I would have the most hyped I ever would have been is if Oliveira would have beat Islam, but that never happened.
He's a bigger star and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go up to continue speaking of some other topics. I want to talk about our most boring fighter in each division, and then we'll go most entertaining fighter in division. I like doing this every couple months just because it always changes. And yeah, so you want to start off with most boring or most entertaining?
Let's go with most boring. I think you want to do boring?
You could, I mean, you do whichever one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with boring. Jared, let's hear some of your picks.
All right, most boring.
Like who were guys you just couldn't care less about? For me, for heavyweight, I'd say a Parker Porter. I just have no desire to see
or Chris Dawkins.
You're going Parker.
I don't mind seeing Chris Dawkins fight because I know there's a KO coming.
All right, I'm not gonna. All right, Alistair Overeem beat him up. It's on the tip of my tongue. I just forget. It's a really unfortunate too, because and it's not that he's boring. It's just like I just don't get excited for his fights.
Is he Brazilian?
No, his the unfortunate part of it, his daughter died, and he's like,
Oh, Walt Harris.
yeah, Walt Harris. I just can't get excited for his fights right now, and it's unfortunate. He seems
He's
like
not even in the UFC anymore, I don't think.
Oh, he got cut or what happened?
I think he got cut. He's not fought for years. He's training with John Jones, though. He's helping John Jones get ready for Cyril Gane.
All right, it's good he's doing something there. You want to say exciting and boring together?
Yeah. Say exciting and boring.
All right, then right now I'm gonna have to go with Cyril Gane because I think it just really gets people excited to see a big guy that can move that way and do all these techniques that you see like lightweights doing. He's built just in a way that people want to watch him because the dude's built like a superhero. And that fight with Tai Tuivasa was just absolutely ridiculous.
I want to rewatch that fight so badly. It's not on Fight Pass for some reason though. I'm dying to watch that fight again.
Yeah.
All right, Naeem, what would your picks for heavyweight be?
Bro, I had to look at the rankings. I do not.
Okay, let's do you, Jacob.
For heavyweight, I actually wanted to add something also funny after, but in terms of heavyweight, I would say most boring Curtis Blades. Care less to see that guy fight. You know, he's boring as fuck, boring personality, all that stuff. He does have some knockout ability, and he does get knocked out sometimes, which is entertaining, obviously. But still, just as overall fighter guy, he's super boring to me. Most entertaining, I would say Cyril Gane also. You know, when Cyril Gane, actually, I don't know. I would actually probably say either Pavlovich or John Jones. Can I say John Jones or?
What do you think?
I think Jones is a heavyweight, like he just hasn't fought yet. So I don't know.
So I'm gonna say Pavlovich because we know something crazy is gonna happen. But I wanted to add something also. I had this dream last night that I was supposed to. We were sparring. I was at a gym sparring. I was supposed to. I was like, Cyril Gane was there. And I was like, okay, why not just spar him for a second, you know? And then for some reason it became Tyson Fury, and I was sparring Tyson Fury. So I'm like, okay, I just got to jab. So I jabbed and I fucked up his orbital bone.
I think it's
from a jab, and then he got really hurt. And I was just like, and I was just done. I'm like, I'm never boxing again. I just fucking finished Tyson Fury. I'm never touching the gloves again. And I'm just gonna have that on my record or something.
That's crazy.
But it was such a weird dream. But it was
that's
hilarious.
a fucking crazy dream.
I've
had fighters in my dream,
orbital.
Bro. I've had fighters. Apparently, I've said the names of people in my dreams, like fighters in the UFC. Like my girls. Yeah, my girls told me I woke up saying some names, bro.
Is he? You're like,
you know, I said Islam Makhachev and Volkanovski. I said Islam and Volkanovski in my sleep once, which is crazy.
But yeah, no, Lucas, what about for you for heavyweight?
I'd say Gane though, because like Gane is Pavlovich. The reason why I wouldn't put him in there is because I think it's more entertaining to watch like a 3-round striking beatdown versus like a 50-second one. I think it's just cooler to watch a guy like Gane for longer. Although Pavlovich is obviously very exciting. And for heavyweight, most boring, I'd say like a Augusto Sakai or like a Parker Porter.
But
like,
what about when Gane in a boring fight against Francis though?
Yeah, but I think that was still sort of entertaining because at any moment Gane could have got KO'd.
That's
you know, and it was still interesting because in a Francis fight, like you have to be very careful, and at any second something bad could happen. So. Yeah, I think that one of those guys like Augusto Sakai or Parker Porter, I can't stand watching them. So yeah. A light heavyweight though, I would say light heavyweight, Yuri is the most entertaining in my opinion.
Awesome.
And then the most boring light heavyweight, man, I might go with no, I would normally say a guy like I don't know, who am I gonna pick? I think
Anthony Smith.
No, I actually go with Alexander Rakic. I think Alexander Rakic is the most boring fighter at light heavyweight. He has had some god awful fights, some really bad ones.
I gotta think of who my most boring is, but Jared, you got one.
He's okay. He's not bad, but I'd say like Alexander Rakic or maybe Anthony Smith does have good fights. I'll give him that.
So the boring fights are gonna be hard for me because I could just sit down and appreciate some really shit fights.
Yeah, I don't mind like Alexander Rakic's fight with Jan, but I think the one with Thiago Santos was one of the worst fights I've ever seen.
Oh,
So
was that Santos? I was thinking Ankalaev fought Santos. Or
no,
did he fight
Ankalaev had a
Santos?
boring fight with Santos too, but Rakic's one was a 3-rounder. It was on the Izzy and Jan Blachowicz card, and it was
Yeah.
way worse. Way worse.
Because Ankalaev was going to be my call because the Santos fight, and then also he kind of shit the bed on the Yan fight as far as entertainment value.
I didn't mind that though. I felt like 3 rounds at least were really good, and the fourth and fifth he was landing damage on the ground.
Reason that was like just the way that fight was happening. The excitement came from the fact that Yan was fucking him up on the feet. I feel.
No, yeah, definitely.
I really wasn't all that. Like if it was Magomed's night, I think I would have fell asleep. You know.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's a good point.
For me, it's Rakic and Yuri. I think Yuri's the most entertaining. Rakic is the most
I didn't
boring.
say entertaining. I might have to go with Dominic Reyes right now.
Damn,
He's
dude.
not winning, but I mean, got knocked out with the jab. That fight with Yuri was wild, and Dominic Reyes was half of it.
The Jones fight was fun.
His fight with Yan was absolutely wild. Because he was getting pieced up, admittedly. But I haven't seen a boring fight ever of his.
You know who else doesn't have boring fights?
Oh,
Johnny fucking Walker.
Johnny Walker never has
Good pick.
boring. Oh, Thiago Santos one was a bit slow, but yeah.
Well, you know what? It might be Thiago Santos.
Thiago Santos. Hey, I don't
Not
mind
in the
that.
UFC.
I don't mind that because Thiago Santos has had some of the worst fights. His fight with Jan Blachowicz and John Jones were boring as
He
well.
left the UFC. He's not in the
I
UFC.
think Thiago is the most boring guy.
He's the common denominator. It's just
He's the
him.
common denominator. All these guys have Magomed. Everyone has a bad fight with him. I think it's Thiago actually.
He's not in the UFC anymore, though.
Yeah,
He's
got cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And then watch the light heavyweight division become the best division.
he used to be really fun back in the day when he was fighting at middleweight. He used to go to war with guys. But let's go to welterweight though. I think Sean Brady for me is the clear answer. I don't think Bilal Muhammad's as boring as some people say he is. I don't mind watching Bilal Muhammad fight. I enjoyed Bilal Muhammad's fight against I did.
You missed middleweight. You missed middleweight.
Oh, middleweight. Okay. I would say Izzy, dude. I think Izzy to me is the most boring fighter. I think he's had so many stinkers. Yoel Romero, his Jared Cannonier fight, I literally fell asleep in. And I also fell asleep in the Vettori fight, although it wasn't like that boring, but I still fell asleep. And I would say most exciting fighter is probably Alex Pereira right now. I would say Alex Pereira is the most exciting. Robert Whittaker is a close number 2.
Rankings are dog shit. We have the rankings pulled up right now, and they're so bad. Why is Derek Brunson number 5?
Yeah, that's great. That shows you how bad middleweight is.
Middleweight is
Boring for me. I mean, honorable mention sometimes Sean Strickland, but I mean, I don't think he's that boring. I'd definitely go with Izzy. I agree with you there for most boring because he's the common denominator, like the Thiago Santos thing.
Yeah.
Most exciting, I'm going Paulo Costa right now.
Okay. Costa doesn't have bad fights. I'll give you that.
Ignoring the Izzy fight, where his role was pretty boring there. Name a single fight that wasn't a banger for Paulo.
It's a fact. I mean, his Vettori fight was good. His Luke Rockhold fight was good. He does have some really entertaining fights. So that's a good pick.
Even his loss to Izzy.
Yeah, his loss to Izzy was entertaining.
Honestly,
that was Izzy's best fights.
I didn't like that fight all that much. I was sort of because maybe it was because I wanted Paulo to win. But he kind of just stood there and let Izzy leg kick him. And I was just like, you want to fucking do something?
Yeah, exactly. It was very frustrating to watch. But Izzy probably still would have beat him pretty handily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could have been a good fight though.
Yeah, it could have been. All right. So Jacob, what's your picks?
You Jared, you changed my mind honestly about that. I was gonna say Robert Whittaker. Because I think
Paulo Costa is a good pick.
And now I think it's Paulo Costa. I think Paulo Costa was entertaining. Every single fight he's been in has been entertaining. The Izzy one, he made Izzy entertaining. His Vettori fight was great. The Rockhold fight, even though it was like a mess, it was still very entertaining. So I would say Paulo Costa in terms of entertainment. In terms of being boring, I would say Izzy. You know, like he's like we said in the Thiago Santos thing. he is the common denominator. The Jared Cannonier and Derek Brunson are also pretty boring. But I would say Izzy's number one. You know, the Romero fight was one of the worst fights ever. Same with the Jared Cannonier fight. And the Marvin Vettori fight, the second fight was just like a bunch of leg kicks and stuff like that. The second Robert Whittaker fight wasn't that entertaining either. Like his last, like all of his last fights besides the Pereira one were kind of boring. Let's be real.
Yeah.
So I would say Izzy and the Paulo Costa. I forgot about that, but like that's because it's Paulo Costa. So I would say Israel Adesanya. But yeah, in terms of welterweight, I would say most entertaining is for me is Chimaev. I would say probably Chimaev. You know, but that's just me because I understand if the wrestling and stuff like that isn't that entertaining to you, but I like seeing him like pick up a guy and bring him to Dana White and completely strangle him. Like that's entertaining to me. But in terms of most boring, I would probably say Sean Brady. Like the dude is just like it's unexplainable. Him or Bilal, I would for sure say. Also, I think another guy who's underratedly boring, Colby Covington. I feel like his personality makes him entertaining, but in terms of just his fight style, I think it's kind of boring. You know, like he doesn't really do anything that crazy. So I would say most boring though is Sean Brady, then Bilal Muhammad, then Colby Covington.
Yeah, I think with that Colby Covington pick, a lot of people are going to disagree because of Kamaru Usman fights, but I think that's just how their styles match up.
Yeah.
I don't think it's because he's actually that exciting. For
He's
me,
just pretty basic at it. Like, you know, like Colby, like with his wrestling, he just like, yeah, he pressures people, but he doesn't like do much with the pressure. You know what I mean? Like
I feel like for me, most boring, I think you got to put in Neil Mack.
Dude,
Ooh,
Magny's my pick too. Magny's my pick.
I forgot about Magny.
I'm really not. I don't get that excited for Neil Magny fights. Most exciting, just because I like putting in those picks nobody calls. Vicente Luque is always in exciting fights, even if he gets his ass kicked.
Except for the Bilal Muhammad one.
Oh, Michelle Pereira, yeah. Kevin Holland, honestly, I mean, he only had 2 fights out there, but Kamzat destroyed him, and it was exciting. And then that fight was wild with Wonder Boy, where Wonder Boy just beat the ass.
I would say for me, it's got to be Magny with maybe Michael Chiesa and Brady is a close second, and then I would say my most entertaining is Hamzat, and now is a little bit of a hot take, but Usman, ever since he's won the belt, has only had one boring fight. He's literally only had one boring fight. Sure, the Leon Edwards fight was a little bit boring.
Kind of boring.
You know, the Leon Edwards fight. Well, hold on. I don't think it was boring at all. Actually, I think it was okay. It was not that entertaining, but it was all right. His Burns fight was amazing. His Colby fights were great. His Masvidal 2 fight was really good. Obviously, his Colby's fights were amazing, but I don't think he's the most entertaining. I think that Hamzat Chimaev is my most entertaining. And if I had to go with anyone else at welterweight, aside from that, and if I couldn't pick Usman, it might be oh man. I think Jorge Masvidal has some fun fights, but I mean, I don't know. Let's move on to lightweight. There aren't that many guys at welterweight that are like, you know, standouts. Kevin Holland,
Dustin Poirier.
Dustin Poirier is a really good pick. I think that my pick is either Dustin or I would say it's either Dustin or Charles.
They just did.
And I think my most boring would be there aren't that many boring lightweights, to be honest, but I think my most boring might be
Arman Tsarukyan.
No, I don't that
I don't know.
I like Arman. I don't think Arman.
Beneil Dariush.
Is it only ranked?
He's had fun fights. Like Beneil has not had a boring fight other than the Tony one recently.
Gamrot's pretty boring.
Yeah, but he's active on the ground. Like he's impressive. I'm looking at guys that to me are just not impressive at all.
Again, I'm kind of reaching in terms of lightweight because there's not really.
Yeah. I would say honestly, Jared Gordon or no, maybe not Jared Gordon.
That's tough though. Like every Jared is a
He just said every Jared's a boring fighter.
Yeah. Jared Gordon. Um,
There's not many
Yeah.
boring lightweights.
there aren't many boring lightweights. Yeah, the lightweight division is pretty fucking fun.
I'm gonna say Gamrot. I just, like
He might be the odd, but I don't know. They're
it's nitpicking it.
Diego Ferreira. I'm not a big fan of Diego Ferreira. I mean, he has some okay fights, but that's a guy that I'm not never gonna be that excited for watching. Underratedly, Bobby Green has some of the best fights. Like I know the Islam one kind of was trash, but Bobby Green has one of the best styles. He had an amazing fight performance over Nasrat, over Ali Quinta, but he's had some really good fights with Lando Venata. He's, had a phenomenal fight with Rafael Fiziev. Bobby Green has some of the most entertaining fights out there. So the one with Drew Dober was fun too. So that's my honorable mention. I would say Poirier, Charles, and then Bobby Green. Boring. I would have to go with like Diego Ferreira or yeah.
Yeah, no, I got Dustin most entertaining. Charles a close second.
Conor has really entertaining fights.
I still think
all of Conor's fights have been extremely entertaining.
I still think
never
Dustin's
had a bad fight.
Entertaining though. I think Dustin's like whenever he's never had a bad fight either.
Conor's had some of the best fights of all time.
Yeah, so Conor, Dustin, Charles, those guys are all like
Gagey has some really good fights. Let's be real. Gagey does.
Any of those guys are good picks, but in terms of most boring, like I'm reaching for this. I'm gonna say even though he's not.
I think the lightweight division is the most entertaining.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to say someone is boring. But Jared, do you have any most boring fighters in that division?
Yeah. So boring, it's hard because it's such a great weight class, but I was thinking Gregor Gillespie, even though I don't think he's boring, I like watching his fights. The fact that he's holding up the division so much, and he's only trying to fight someone who's ranked high in the division and stuff like that.
I don't think he's holding it up though. I think he's just straight up just not fighting.
Yeah, he's not fighting, but I mean, like he's specific. I want to see him.
Not like he's Dustin Poirier.
Yeah. I want to see him fight.
Like it's changing the way I see him. When previously I regarded him super highly and stuff like that. It changed the way I see him when it's just like, hey, I want to fight someone in the top 5 after getting knocked out by Kevin Lee and fighting like nobody. So he's my honorable mention, I guess, but I don't even think he's boring. It's just a good weight class, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Exciting.
Yeah.
You gotta go. I think the fact that Charles gets so many finishes while taking so much damage, you have to really applaud that.
Yeah, Charles has some insane fights.
Like get dropped 6 times and then choke someone out with something you made up on the spot. That shit's fucking crazy. So I'll go Charles.
All right, let's go down to featherweight. My pick, and this is gonna come at no surprise, it's Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, let's listen to this. Since he's been a champion, I'm gonna go through his champion run, and actually, I'll go through his Mendez fight was really fun. Aldo fight was dominant, but it wasn't entertaining. It wasn't that entertaining. When he beat Max Holloway, that was entertaining because I didn't believe it was happening before my eyes. I was watching it. I was like, how is this guy shutting down Max? Like, I've never, ever seen this in my entire life. Dustin brought Max to war. People look at that fight incorrectly all the time. Dustin and Max, that was a close fight. And Volkanovski beat Max Holloway clearly every round. It was amazing to see. Second fight with Max, it was entertaining. It was a very close fight. Max knocked him down. It was a dog fight. It was entertaining, high level. His fight with Brian Ortega, amazing. He won every single round, by the way. I know he had a hairy moment, but he even won the round where he almost got choked out in because he was beating Ortega up for like a minute and up until the 1:45 mark. Ortega had a 30-second moment out of 5 minutes, and then he almost finished him at the end of the round. Volk, and then he had the zombie fight, which was a one-sided massacre, and then he had the Max Holloway 3 fight, which was just showing levels. So Volkanovski, to me, because he has such high skill and is like completely demolishing guys, that's the most entertaining. Max Holloway is also very entertaining, but Volk is just a bit of a cut above. I think Ilia Topuria hasn't done enough yet throughout his career. He's still a newer fighter. And then most boring fighter in that weight class. Again, this is an entertaining weight class, but I might have to go with Dan Ige. I think that his fights are pretty boring.
Josh Emmett's dad. You know.
Josh Emmett's, yeah,
No,
exactly.
it's Josh
Emmett-
Emmett's dad.
Emmett's father. I'd go with Emmett's. Yeah, I'd go with
We
Emmett's
gotta
pop.
we gotta give Dan Ige his credit for that fight. You know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think it has to be a Dan Ige. I think Dan Ige is
Damon Jackson.
pretty boring. Damon Jackson's, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's probably Dan Ige, to be honest.
For me,
Chase Hooper also has some fun fights.
For me, it's between Volk and Tuperia. You know, I think that's what
Yeah.
it comes down to. I think both of those guys are super entertaining. Oh, I think I have to give it to Tuperia because I think we know we're gonna get a finish when he's fighting. You know,
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
even his fight. I forgot who he fought, but before
He fought Jai
Bryce
Herbert.
Mitchell. He fought at a 155, so it was
Yeah.
a bit different. But he
He got
had a
knocked
bad
down in the
first-
first round and landed a
Yeah, and
huge-
he had a really bad first round. He came out there in the second round, completely knocked him out cold. And Bryce Mitchell, he like that was a complete beatdown. You know, I haven't seen anything like that in a really long time, in terms to like a guy like Bryce Mitchell. So I would say Tapir number 1, Volk number 2. You said it all perfectly. You know, Volk, since he's become a champion, even before that, he was really entertaining. You know, the Max 3 fight, that was super entertaining. Even though it was like a one-sided beatdown, it was still entertaining. Same with the Korean Zombie. Ortega fight was one of the best fights of the year. You know, seeing him almost get finished to then like ending the round off, almost finishing Ortega, leaving Ortega literally on the ground, like pretty much out at that point, you know, somehow getting to the stool. So I think you can always count on having an entertaining fight with Volkanovski. But I'm going to have to go with Tapiria. In terms of most boring, I'm going to say Damon Jackson. Could care less about that guy. He's like 40 years old. Like,
Damon
for
Jackson.
some reason, like the most random fighter out there. Like,
Yeah.
He's just like, I don't even know how to explain him. He's just like,
Yeah.
boring overall. So,
For me, are you done or are you still talking?
yeah. I'm
No,
done.
you're good. You're good.
All right. So most entertaining, I'm gonna actually put Max Holloway higher than Volk because I feel like
I don't
it's just a
mind
different level of excitement. I mean, you guys both mentioned the Max Holloway fights as far as why Volk's so high, and Max was also part of those fights, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
The Yair fight was crazy. You know, the significant strike records that he set against Brian Ortega and then again on Calvin Kattar.
Yeah,
I think
those
it's
fights
just a
were
little bit
amazing.
more exciting on average.
I don't mind that actually.
Volkanovski.
Yeah, it's a good pick. Max has had
Okay.
some like incredibly entertaining fights.
Yeah. And I can't think of too many people that are super boring. For
But I
me.
can think of one boring fight that he had.
Oh, what's the boring?
the Edgar
Frankie
fight was
Edgar.
pretty boring.
That wasn't
The Edgar
that
fight
bad
was
though.
boring.
That wasn't that
Yeah,
bad.
It was
I
it
think
was
you get
it was
one
it was
pass.
not a great watch.
Yeah, you get a couple passes.
Yeah, of course
When
you do
get
get
Israel
passes.
Adesanya status, you're removed from the conversation.
Yeah.
But as far as boring, I'm gonna go with Ryan Hall because I know it's a hot take, but it's just like I like seeing people do stuff that I'm not expecting, and I know that I'm just gonna be
Imanari rolls.
out of range head kicks into flopping at someone's ankle.
Yeah, it's one of the he's one of the most hyped up fighters
For no
ever
reason.
that's just failed. Like
Yeah, I
he's
don't
got
think
hyped
he's
up so
that-
much by his
And-
jiu-jitsu community.
And it's like his age at the time where he had this hype. It didn't even make sense. Why? Like, if you're absolutely
Couldn't strike.
Oh, I just got an announcement. Kevin Lee is coming back to the UFC.
Yeah,
apparently.
Kevin Lee is signed again to the UFC. Eagle FC is no longer a thing in the US. So Kevin Lee is I think that's great news. I think he should fight Patty Pimblett.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, that honestly, that's a fight that makes sense. for me.
Pimblett and Kevin Lee.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
But Kevin Lee might not want to fight at 55. He might want to go to 170.
Yeah.
I think 170 is an
Pimblett
awful
versus
choice for him.
Patty Pimblett's a fatty. Let's
Yeah.
make it happen. 70.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
I think he gets beefed by Kevin Lee either way. Kevin Lee.
I think Kevin Lee could beat Patty Pimblett too.
Same. I don't think Kevin Lee's that bad at all. Like he's still kind of youngish too. Like obviously he's not like a top level fighter, but like I still think he belongs in like the top 15 of like
No.
you know.
He is not a top 15 guy at this
top
point.
20. Like
He
he's not
barely
that
he scraped by Diego Sanchez and didn't even finish him. I mean, that's uncalled for. Like that's unacceptable.
He also had a couple knee injuries. Like yeah.
He
Maybe-
lost to Ally Quinta twice, bro. Ally Quinta, dude.
He just has the talent. He just can't put it together. It's so
Yeah,
weird.
he is talented. He is talented for sure.
I
Um,
think,
yeah.
It's cool how they lightweight's sort of developing this like pretty good, but not good enough to be ranked weight class.
Yeah, Terrence
Where they could
McKinney.
be getting Kevin Lee, Patty Pimblett, Jared Gordon all together, put together a few guys, and you could have like a 155 like varsity squad, and then like
Yeah, exactly. 155 JV. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. But 135.
Ooh, 135 is a great weight class. For me, most entertaining, I would say that if I'm thinking about like the odd man out, if I'm thinking about the common denominator, um, man, Petr Yan has really not had boring fights at all. Maybe since he's been a contender. Aljamain is definitely not an entertaining fighter, so Petr Yan gets a pass on the second one. I would say Petr Yan, man. Petr Yan, first fight with Aljamain was entertaining. Aljamain was giving it to him too. Petr Yan's fight with Corey Sandhagen was amazing. His fight with Sean O'Malley. My favorite fight of all time right now, currently, is Petr Yan versus Jose Aldo. That is my current favorite fight ever. That to me, the second, third, the first through the fourth round are the most entertaining rounds ever, in my opinion. So for me, I have to go Petr Yan. And my most boring fighter in that division is probably I don't know if I'd even pick Merab, bro. I might go with shit, man. I think I might go with like a Casey Kenny. Oh, maybe a Pedro Munoz. Pedro Munoz has had some stinkers. But I might, his fight with Sean O'Malley was god awful. He's had some boring fights, but I might go with maybe who did I say before Pedro?
Rob.
I'd said someone else. I'd said someone else, bro.
I don't remember.
Yeah, either way, man. I think it's got to be like there's some other guy on the tip of my tongue, but I'll come back. Yeah.
For me,
Jared,
I think most
yeah.
No, Jared, go.
I'm gonna preface this by saying you don't need to be in the title talks to be that good.
Yeah.
As an entertaining fighter, because I'm gonna go with Dominic Cruz in my opinion.
What?
Because there's a certain, I don't know if it's just because I've always been like a Cruz fanboy, but like when I see his fights and stuff, it just has this certain level of energy. Because I know that any of these shots might hurt him. And he's going out there narrowly dodging strikes. When he does get hit, it has me feeling like, oh shit, Cruz just got dropped. When he doesn't, I'm just like, oh shit, that's vintage Cruz right there. Different level of excitement than from anyone else in the division when I'm watching Cruz fight for me. And then boring, I'm gonna have to agree, Pedro Munoz. What do you think?
Boring Pedro.
Yeah, Pedro Munoz has some really trash fights.
For me,
I'm surprised you guys didn't say Merab.
Yeah,
Merab has had some real. Well, Merab has had some boring fights, but that fight he had with Marlon Moraes was really good.
That was wild.
I think Merab is actually a good choice because his Jose Aldo fight sucked too.
Mm-hmm.
I always liked him. I think people that call him a boring fighter probably only saw the Jose Aldo fight.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think that too.
Yeah,
he has had some really good fights.
I just don't think there's there's not that many boring fighters in that division. Again, like it's like the lightweight division. But in terms of most entertaining, I think Petr Yan for sure. All of his fights have been bangers. I even think that Aljamain Sterling's second fight was pretty good. So the Sean O'Malley fight was one of my favorite fights ever. Straight up, rewatching it, all that. I think most boring. I mean, look, it's Pedro or Merab. Merab, the Moraes fight was very entertaining. And I think he has the ability to put on an entertaining fight. Pedro Munoz, on the other hand, I just don't think he has that ability. You know what I mean? It's not like he gets flatline KO'd either, which could be entertaining, like we said about the Dominic Reyes part of the pick. So I would say Pedro Munoz, actually, but most entertaining, Petr Yan or Sean O'Malley, one of the two. But probably Petr Yan. And then 125, who would you say?
Man, 125 for me is got to be Brandon Moreno. I mean, the guy's had so many great fights, so many good finishes. Even before Figueiredo, he's finished a ton of guys, has a really well-rounded game. I think that, he is one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC. Just, he can do everything. He's an amazing grappler. I mean, these lighter guys, like they're usually more skilled, but what he looks like, he looks perfect. He looks like the ultimate complete MMA fighter when I watch him. He can do it all. I'd say he is right now the most entertaining guy in that weight class. Most boring, I would say Askar Askarov. The guy has nothing but decisions, and yeah, he's just a really, really boring style for me. So, again, I don't mind grappling at all. Like I think that Brandon Moreno has some of the most entertaining grappling, and same with Figueiredo. But Askar Askarov to me is most boring.
Mm-hmm. Jared, you want to go?
Sure. For me, I'm not even gonna lie. I don't watch as much flyweight as I really should. Because it does get promoted like that. I still watch it. Most entertaining for me, I was gonna say Davidson Figueiredo because I like his technique variety. He does a lot of crazy things, and he hits so freakishly hard for the weight class. But there's some good options there. For boring, I'm not even sure who I would pick because most of the flyweight fights that I've seen, they've all been exciting. So I'm not even gonna go there.
I think flyweight is an underrated division. And actually, if I'm looking at the top 10, I just want to read out the top 10 because, flyweight's notorious for being not that great, but you have Brandon Moreno, Alexandre Pantoja, Brandon Royval, Kai Kara France, Mateus Nicolau, Matt Schnell, Manel Cap, Tim Elliott, Muhammad Bakayev. I mean, these are entertaining fighters, and I think that Tatsuro Taira, the Japanese guy, is breaking onto the scene. He looks really skilled. I think Muhammad Bakayev, to me, is a little bit overhyped.
He's a great grappler, though.
He's Japanese guy that's the guy who's like
he's got the bowl cut.
Wrestler, right?
Yeah, he's a wrestler, grappler. Yeah. He got a submission this weekend.
I remember Michael Bisping was saying something like he has an amateur wrestling career of like 36 wins, 9 losses, and it didn't sound impressive at all. I was like, that's one high school season. And then I looked up, and he's like a U23 world champion and stuff like that. And I was like, shit, he's good at wrestling.
Damn. Wow.
When he said 36-9, I was like, that's not impressive. But it's the real deal.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I would say most entertaining, Brandon Moreno. He seems to be getting finishes in like all of his fights as of late. So, I mean, yeah, most of his fights as of late. That body shot to the liver kick to Kai Kara France, fantastic. That fight was an amazing fight. The last Figueiredo fight was super entertaining. The third fight was very entertaining. The second fight was they're all entertaining. I think Brandon Moreno is super entertaining. Most boring, I would say Askar Askarov for sure. And again, like Lucas said, it's not like I dislike wrestling or grappling. It's just the way he does it, where there's not much he doesn't do much with it. He doesn't land much ground and pound, doesn't throw much submissions. He kind of just like controls, and it's just kind of boring to watch. So I would say Askar Askarov. But I wanted to talk about one more topic before we call it. We're running out of time. But do you guys think that UFC commentators who've been fighters, do you think they're more qualified than regular people to commentate UFC fights? And also, do you think that it's better to have them as commentators?
I think with the ones that are well spoken, yes, but I feel like there's some fighters that just don't belong there. I really feel like there's also just been some takes from some of these fighters that are just absolutely ridiculous. Like, as smart as Dominic Cruz is, sometimes he has some bad takes.
Mm-hmm. Like like McGregor gassing out Habib.
Yeah, it's just like, in my opinion, I feel like if you want to be the best in the world at something, you develop so much like brain energy into that it's kind of like you're going to have some biases. You're going to be looking at this guy and being all like, okay, I'm better than them or something like that. Like, I feel like the best commentators are experienced in the sport. They know how to do the moves and stuff like that. But they haven't reached that level where they're one of the best in the world, because then you get so personally involved that no matter who's fighting, there's going to be some type of a bias where it's like, oh, you see a little bit of your style in that guy or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good in a way, but the thing that Jared said about being biased, I think it's a real thing. You see guys who trained they've trained at their gyms, they trained at the rival gyms. I mean, I just think there's going to be some bias towards it. Like, let's say you get a guy who, let's say Dustin Poirier retires. He wants to be a commentator. He's going to obviously be more biased to the people who go to American Top Team, and it's just natural. What's going to happen. Daniel Cormier is obviously going to be biased towards certain people. Michael Bisping is going to be biased towards his UK people, like his Darren Tills, his Tom Aspinalls. And I think that's the problem with it. I think you get a guy like a John Anik, even a Lauren Sanko. I think she did a really good job, like who aren't on any sort of side. You know what I mean? So and who do know the sport. Like you still have to obviously just because you haven't done the sport doesn't mean you don't know about it. You know?
Yeah.
And I think in a way those people are better because you just don't see the bias. And it's not like Jared said, it's not competing with yourself. So I think these fighters, like their brains are wired differently, no matter what, no matter how old they are, they're still gonna like have some pride, have some like some sort of ego. And I think the people, the commentators who weren't fighters don't have that kind of ego, which gives us a clearer, like a more accurate view. That's what I think.
I really like Angela Hill. She's done a little bit of commentary, but I think most of what she's done has been after the fights. I think that it's because there's going to be less of these biases, I think, because she doesn't have the ability to fight most of the people she's commentating on because they're men. I really enjoy her as a commentator personally. Who are some of your guys' favorite commentators? Oh, also he was about to say something earlier. What were you about to say?
I was just gonna say that I agree with like if they're experienced, then they're like qualified to do the job. But even then, like I don't know. Maybe it's just me when I watch the fights, but like Daniel Cormier, Dominic Cruz, and fucking there's one other, maybe Bisping. I don't. I think it was
Felder does it.
Felder. Just over like their commentating sucks ass. Like I don't enjoy it at all.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I can't stand Michael Bisping.
Okay.
I can't stand. I don't mind Paul Felder though. He seems to be a guy who's more of a play-by-play guy. I think the UFC needs more play-by-play and less color commentator, less
Storytellers. Yeah,
like Michael Bisping will be telling a story while someone's getting knocked out, and he won't talk about the knockout until he's finished with his story. I think that experience definitely means something. Like I think it should be silly to not have any fighters on commentary. I think you need some to just kind of have an idea of what the fighters are going through, like someone who's actually been in their spot in their position. But like Joe Rogan is so out of touch these days. Like back in the day, he was following MMA more intimately, but he's so out of touch that like I just cringe at some of the things that he says. And it seems like, bro, are you even fucking following the sport?
like this isn't 2018. Like
Yeah, like this isn't 2018, bro. Like I don't know, man. I feel like the UFC, Laura Sanko is fine. I mean, she did all right this past weekend. And as you said, Angela Hill, she's not fighting any of these guys. But another woman, what's her name? Juliana Pena had some of the most disastrous takes ever on one of her fight night shows that she did with ESPN. She said so she was breaking down Umar Nurmagomedov and Raoni Barcelos, and she said that she's picking Barcelos because he already has a win over Nurmagomedov. And it wasn't like, oh wait, no, I meant no, she genuinely just said that. And I'm just, how the fuck are you just hired for this job? You have no idea what you're talking about. I think that the UFC needs people that really follow the sport. Like Dan Hardy, the UFC got rid of him, but in my opinion, I think Dan Hardy, I don't know if you guys have seen his breakdowns, but he is one of the most passionate guys when it comes to MMA. He loves breaking down fights. You could tell he really cares about it. I think that's a guy that the UFC should have around. That's a fighter that has a lot of experience that is perfect for the role. But these big names, just because they're big names and they have big personalities, I don't think you need to hire a guy just because he has a big personality. Like, I don't like how boxing does the same thing sometimes. I think you need, if you're going to get fighters, they need to be like Dan Hardy, who actually invests into studying fights. They're not just doing it for the paycheck. Michael Bisping, this is just a paycheck for him, and he uses it to bask in his glory. So I don't like that.
You could tell that by him doing slap boxing too.
Yeah, he does slap boxing too.
So interesting point that I have here. I think that even though he's not a commentator, I would be really interested to see Ariel Helwani commentate because he has so much knowledge from having watched the sport for so long. And I feel like a lot of people sort of disrespect him, but I feel like just when he talks to these fighters and stuff like that, he has a lot of good opinions. I think it would be interesting if he ever decided to commentate. He wouldn't for the UFC because Dana hates him.
Yeah, of course. Who are some other guys that you would like to see, or women? I know you said Angela Hill. Are there any other names? For me, Dan Hardy is a must, and I think the UFC should get rid of Bisping. I don't mind DC too much because
DC's good.
DC has some really good knowledge with the wrestling, and I feel like that's something that's important. You have to have a high level wrestler there. Henry Cejudo maybe in the future.
He's too slow though.
Could be good. He is a little bit slow. I think that Dan Hardy is perfect. Who else? Who else would be good?
I say we get Nate Diaz on commentary.
Nate Diaz. How about Nate Diaz, Stipe Miocic, and Yoel Romero? How about all three of them on commentary?
Commentating on Power Slap.
Yeah.
No, but unironically for you guys though, I feel like the way you guys talk about the sport and stuff like that, and you guys also like the way I watch it, there's fights that because I'm trying to like develop my own skills and stuff like that, I watch it trying to mimic it, but I don't end up paying attention all the way down the rankings and stuff like that. You guys are just really into the sport. If you wanted to like look into like doing like regional MMA commentating or something like that, like in New York,
I don't know, man. I put out some pretty hot takes online. I don't know if they'd like it. Like I have a very extreme. People are shitting on me all the time. I don't know, but you know what? If that's possible,
I get shit on all the time. You see in my account.
Oh, of course. But the only issue is, dude, like, I just think that they'd see me and they'd be like, you never had a fight. You're not the owner of a gym. Like, they would be like, you know, these are old heads that are running these promotions.
What if you got licensed to do a little bit of MMA judging, and then after you judge a few fights, then you try to commentate?
I would absolutely love that. I know like John McCarthy has a class, you know, I'm sure he has an online class. I would really love to be a judge. That'd be really cool.
John McCarthy would not be a terrible commentator.
Yeah, John McCarthy is a commentator for Bellator. You know, maybe the UFC could book him over here, but
he would not be bad.
Yeah.
Well, one person who I absolutely hate as a commentator, not Dan Murgliata. Fuck, I'm so out of it.
Commentator or referee?
No, he's a referee. Big John McCarthy. Yeah. We're on the same.
You don't like McCarthy?
I don't like him as a commentator.
Why? Because he's all about, you know, he wrote the rules.
So he's always giving these takes on how the rules are supposed to be when he made them. You know what I mean?
Back in the 90s.
The sport's different now. You know what I mean? He's more vocal about this on Twitter, but he also does a little bit of it during the actual fights. But like one of the most horrendous things that I've ever seen him say is it's just like he gets in arguments sometimes with people on the internet about scoring, and then he pulls the trump card by saying, "Oh yeah, well I wrote that," and it's like, no, you didn't. You wrote a version of it 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And he tries to say like my way is the highway as far as scoring goes. I feel like
I'm not a fan. That's too biased. I agree. Yeah. I agree. It's a little bit too biased. I think that for me, you know, Dan Hardy is like perfect. I think if I had to come up with like a dream team, I would say Dan Hardy, maybe John Anik is phenomenal. And then I don't know. Like I feel like they need
better guys. They need new guys.
That's like a high level grappler, maybe like a really high level grappler.
Honestly, what if they tried to get Sam Alvey on commentary, because he's a very sociable person, good at talking, and I feel like I don't know if he's still fighting for the UFC. I don't think
he's not.
But he's given a lot to the company at least. So
he's given a lot to the company for sure, but I don't know. I feel like he might be a little biased.
Yeah.
Like
he's had a lot of takes that I disagree with.
He's had a lot of wild takes.
But I do feel like even though I disagree with a lot of his takes, it's no more than how I disagree with some of these fighters.
Yeah.
And I feel like since he has given a lot to the sport, he's one of those like company guys.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of unfair that guys that give just as much like him don't sort of end up getting the same rewards as some of these other fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Like
for no reason.
I agree with that, man. I think the UFC was a terrible choice to get Bisping. I really think like they need people that are, you know, obviously you have to have some kind of entertainment value. But I think all these guys have a little bit of humor. I think Dominic Cruz can definitely be a little bit dry. I think he's a little bit of a buzzkill. He's too serious sometimes. But Dan Hardy could be funny. Um, I think John Anik could be funny too. Man, maybe they should get back Goldberg. You know, they used to have Goldberg back in the day.
I think they need new guys. I think they need new, fresh guys. You know what I mean?
They
Like they
need
can't
Dan
keep.
Hardy. I don't like Dana
What if
White
they
has
got
such
the
a vendetta
Weasel
against
and
Hardy.
MMA Guru on
Yeah, maybe
comment?
we should get MMA Guru on there.
With
But
a
Guru, if I'm gonna be real, Guru is extremely biased when he's watching fights. Like, for example, if there's like a Dagestani fighter, he'll just like rail them, and for sure he does give them credit in his predictions. Like he's not biased in his predictions at all anymore. He's not at all. But while he's watching the fights, he would need to tune back some of the shit he's saying about the Dagestanis.
Yeah, for sure.
But man, I think commentary is definitely harder than it looks. But yeah, I think Dan Hardy, Anik, and maybe a Paul Felder, or I think Henry Cejudo. I feel like Henry Cejudo, the reason why he's a little slow is because he smokes a lot. I think he's open about this. He smokes a lot of weed, and he's stoned all the time.
What about John Jones?
I don't want to see him on commentary personally.
I don't think the UFC should put him on commentary.
But he's not like he knows a lot about the sport. He has his fake nice guy act. Like
I just think that
I
the
think
commentators
he's
need to
able
be
to do the
clean
job.
guys. Like Jones has too much of a tainted legacy. I don't think that's a good look.
He's able to do the job, and I think he could do a good job at it.
I think so. I don't know if he.
Really like, I just really feel like, first off, with how political of a figure he is in the sport, I feel like it would just cause a lot of controversy with him. On the commentary team.
It'd be a bad look.
And then also, I feel like it could even affect the fighters. Like when you're in the apex or something like that, and you could physically hear the commentators and stuff like that. If John Jones is commentating about somebody who he already beat the shit out of or something like that, and hates him to
commentating an Anthony Smith fight.
Yeah, if he's commentating Anthony Smith, I feel like it's just like there's a level of distraction that would bring.
Yeah.
Just because
also just being the goat.
A lot of fighters revere him as like being just such a piece of work.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if he'd be commentating Anthony Smith because like he'd probably be doing it 5-6 years from now. But I think I definitely see what you mean, Jacob. Like he's a very well-spoken guy. He's definitely smart. Obviously not smart in a certain way. He's not like the socially
good decision maker.
Yeah. He's not a good decision maker, of course.
I think Anik's the best. My dream commentating would be Anik. I would say I don't mind like DC, honestly, straight up.
I don't mind DC.
I like Lauren Sanko on it. I think she's good. It's just the only
Lauren Sanko's good too.
The only concern is if when there's a crazy knockout. I don't want to hear her like scream.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's my only concern with her. Like I don't think it sounds bad, like play by play from a female. Like
John Anik has the perfect on the. Do you guys think he prepares like the lines he says for if there's going to be a KO? He must, because some of the lines he says when guys win the belt, he says like the perfect things.
He's got to reverse those. I really like the amount of research that John Anik does, because he finds those NBA stats.
Deep cut.
Like
he once talked about these two guys going through like some law.
With the son. I met with this son. Right?
Both these fighters are having custody battles involving.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so fast.
That's wild, but he has some crazy stats that he can talk about. Like this is the most leg kicks anyone's taken on their left leg since 2009.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, the Sean O'Malley long legs, the Cheeto Vera.
Cheeto Vera and Sean O'Malley have longer legs than Stipe.
It's like, how do you come up with that? Like, how do you track that? But I think Rogan needs to get the fuck away from the sport. Same with because those guys are just like I'm almost at the point where I just want to turn off put on the mute button. You know what I mean? Like
I'm over it too, man. Back in the day it was cool, but nowadays it's just too much Joe Rogan.
I think he could still do the interviews, and I think that maybe
the interviews are fine.
The post-fight conversations they're having with the fighter.
But Joe Rogan fucked up with Jan Blachowicz. Have you seen his interview with Jan? He basically told Jan like you lost.
That was I thought that was inappropriate, because they haven't even had the chance to watch the fight back. Even Joe didn't, right? And there's been fights where I've scored it for one fighter, and then I immediately rewatch it and I change my mind.
Yeah.
you shouldn't go out there and try to tell somebody why they should
Lost.
go out there and apologize for pretty much have him like basically apologize for his performance. And he hasn't even watched it back. That really pissed me off.
Yeah, I think watching fights back really does something. You know, like it really, it's like does make a real difference. You know, in certain situations, like even like the Jan O'Malley fight, rewatching it, like you know what I mean, like certain fights, like the Magomed, like you said, the Magomed Jan Blachowicz. When I watched, I was like, okay, Jan lost that fight. Rewatched the fight, I was like, okay, that was for sure a draw. You know what I mean? Like Jan for sure won the first 3 rounds. Like there's a lot of emotion. The crowd could play factors, stuff like that. So I thought it was very inappropriate for Rogan. I don't even think he should be doing the post fights either. I just think he's so not in touch with his sport at all. Like, do you guys really think that Rogan is like writing notes, doing research, rewatching fight? He's not doing that anymore. There's no way. He's too busy doing his other shit.
I think I just really like the sport of MMA being as big as it possibly can be, and I feel like with his brand as having like arguably the biggest podcast in the world or whatever, I feel like that's good for the sport, even though I disagree with a lot of the things Joe Rogan does, and I'd like to keep him around, but I just want it to be in some way where it's.
But I don't even know if Joe Rogan I don't know if that's pulling in eyes. I think Joe Rogan already does a lot for the UFC with having these fighters on his show.
Yeah.
And I think he would continue to do that if he left, commentary, because he still does like combat sports. I just don't think he's as in tune with the game to be a commentator.
Yeah.
But yeah. Although, by the way, this is a little bit unrelated, but you said, sometimes you rewatch a fight back and you scored a different way. Well, I've seen Yoel Romero versus Whitaker 2 like 5 or 6 times.
Scored it 5
and for the first
ways.
time, I scored it for Whitaker. The last time I saw it, I had it Whitaker. I mean, I just don't think Yoel did enough. I mean, this is kind of a completely different topic, but the 3rd round, Yoel dropped him, but Whitaker landed enough damage in that 3rd round to where I think like it wasn't a 10-8, it was just a 10-9, and Yoel got a 10-8 in the last. I think Whitaker should have won. So when I watched it live, I was pissed, but I finally scored it for fucking Rob.
So you're saying 3rd round was not a 10-8, and then 5th round was a 10-8?
Yeah, I'm saying that because the 5th round, Whitaker had nothing for Yoel. Yoel held him up against the fence after knocking him down. In the 3rd round, Yoel did have the knockdown, but Whitaker got right back up. They went to war up against the fence. Whitaker landed some really big elbows on Yoel, which actually at one point, Yoel like wobbled around a little bit and lost his balance. And I think that Whitaker just throughout that round, like he had many moments. And I don't know if I could consider that a 10-8. I understand that's how 10-8s are scored, but I'm going to be real. I think sometimes 10-8s are a little bit loosely thrown out there. I feel like just dropping someone, I don't know, man. Like if it's I don't know.
Boxing.
I feel like they should have a different scoring system, though. I feel like they should have a different scoring system. If you're going to have a 10-7, the UFC should do more 10-7s if they're going to have so many 10-8s.
I agree. I feel like I am gonna disagree that they're thrown out too loosely, because there's been a lot of rounds where I feel like they just by default give it a 10-9 round, even though it was a ton of damage being dealt and stuff like that. Like I want to say Magomed Ankalaev versus Yan. There was one round where I forget which one. I'll need to rewatch
the 5th round.
The 5th round.
They did give him a 10-8. They gave him a 10-8.
But there was another one that I think there was an arguable 10-8 for.
The 4th round?
I think it might have I think it has to be the 4th round for Ankalaev. And I feel like just if you
Jan did nothing in that round. Yeah.
Has absolutely nothing to offer you. They don't hit you a single time.
I could understand that.
Like a 10-8, and they never do that,
Same with Aljo versus. I thought Aljo versus Jan, the 2nd round or the 3rd round, I thought that was a 10-8 too, and they gave him a 10-9.
Oh, for sure. The 3rd round, I think there's an argument it should be 10-9 because Yan at least did a little bit. But Aljo literally hopped on him and then had him full defensive. And then people are saying stuff like, oh, well, Aljamain Sterling couldn't even submit a boxer. It's like, yeah, well,
Yan's not just a boxer.
Escape.
That's not technically because he wasn't really threatening. He was just on his back.
He was like very close to
like
finishing
if you're on someone's back and they are just fetal position, let me not leave any openings. I for like 4 minutes 30 seconds of a round and you don't land a single strike, you don't deserve it 9 points.
I could understand that, but I think for sometimes like I just think that I think they have to change the scoring system. They should do more 10-7s. And like I think that if you're gonna go on that, the Robert Whittaker 2-round versus Yoel Romero. I mean, Yoel didn't do jack shit. He landed a couple body shots. Whittaker, landed a massive head kick, broke Yoel's orbital bone, outlanded him like on crazy numbers. I just feel like if they are going to give 10-8s, how is it that a round where you can get the shit beat out of you and just not get knocked down is a 10-9, but a really close round where there's a flash knockdown is a 10-8? It just doesn't make sense to me.
The whole system needs to change, I just like
the rules
I agree.
Are really complicated to read, and they need to simplify it.
Yeah.
So that it's just easier to find a standard.
That's what I mean, bro. Like people have so many arguments after fights. Like, did Gon win? Did Ngannou win? And I think, like, dude, if you just make the rules a little, like the UFC should fucking market the rules. Like they should have some kind of rule set that's extremely easy to follow. Like if you go on the UFC website, there's a section that says rules, and it's like numbered, and it shows here are all the examples. Like I just think they need to make this more readily available so people can understand how they're scoring the fights. Because some of these judges are ass, bro. It's like there were people that gave Brian Ortega 40. They gave Volkanovski 48-47 against Brian Ortega. They gave this motherfucker 2 rounds.
They should have judges doing post-fight
go to prison
analysis.
if he gives him 2 rounds in that fight.
They should have judges talk after.
What is a 10-8 according to the UFC?
A 10-8, I think. Man, I couldn't tell you word for word. But if you get dropped, if someone gets dropped, that's a 10-8.
No, I mean I think it's
that's
about to get
boxing.
finished.
I don't. So in the unified MMA rules, they don't mention. They say that it's just a round you win by a large margin. Then they just talk about a whole bunch of bullshit.
But knockdowns are always considered 10-8 rounds in MMA.
In boxing, yes, but in MMA,
maybe 2 knockdowns.
I don't think they say it.
Well, obviously a knockdown secures you the round 100%.
Yeah,
I mean that's clear. Yeah,
knockdown guarantees you that 10.
But even that is like, dude, what if you have some guy like what is like the most what if you have like a Max Holloway, Brian Ortega 4th round for like 4 minutes and 45 seconds, and then he lands one shot that drops Max for a second? Like, I think you have to give that to Max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even in the Yoel fight, there was rounds, if I can remember correctly, where Whittaker, like, I think landed the more damage, landed the more strikes, and Yoel knocked him down. What round was that? Was that the 3rd round?
That was maybe the 3rd round, dude. I mean,
so,
like
Whittaker should have won that round.
I
mean, maybe, but I don't know about that because Yoel still had other moments in that as well. But
like
Whittaker,
if that's the only moment, you can't give it to that guy.
Yeah.
To me, like with a 10-8, I feel like it's like the winner of a round always gets 10 points, and then the loser gets 9 or fewer. So I think it's like it has to do with how poor of a performance the other guy did. You know what I mean? And it's like if I did my job, but the other guy got their ass beat, they nearly got finished, that's obviously going to be 10-8.
Yeah.
But I also feel like if you go out there and you put on a shit performance, you might not have taken a whole bunch of damage, but let's say you don't throw a single strike. You didn't do your job. You don't deserve to get 9 points. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Like if you don't throw a single strike, if you were backing up the whole round while another person was trying to deal damage, almost successfully doing it, but you just totally nullified the round even. I'm not sure if I'd call that a 10-8, but I mean, I just feel like there's a whole bunch of things that you could do.
Yeah, that would be a 10-9.
There's a whole bunch of things you could do, in my opinion, other than just receive damage that make it so that you'd like lose that point,
Yeah, I agree.
Even if it's not damaging.
Just yeah.
Like
I think they need a new scoring system. They need 10-7s more readily. They need 10-8s, they need 10-9s, they need 10-7s. They need to change it up, bro. They really
like for me, that Darren Till Duplessis first round should have been a 10-8.
Yeah. And what about 9-9s? What about 9-9s? Is that possible? Like, are we ever gonna get a 9-9? No. A 10-10?
I don't like 9-9s. I do like 10-10s though.
Well,
But
9-9 is
it's the same thing.
not
It would do the
Same
same.
shit, yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like it just adds to it because it's based on the boxing rules and they don't.
Yeah,
have
I think you have to have a winner in each round. It's like impossible. Like,
But,
but I don't
some
know.
rounds
It
are
is
so hard.
theoretically
I think the
possible
rule
that a
you mentioned
round could have
10-10, I think
a
it
draw.
counts.
I mean, if a fight could have a draw, why couldn't a round have a draw? If both guys land 2 jabs and 1 leg kick, and they're both
Like an
that
Adesanya fight.
yeah, like that could be a draw round. But yeah. Anyway, I think guys, now is probably a good time to wrap it up. We've been on here for a while. I want to thank everyone for coming on. Great podcast. And you guys are going to go and train. So enjoy your training session. What are you guys doing today? Are you doing anything specific? Sparring, pads? What are you doing? Grappling?
Some striking stuff. Probably a little bit of sparring and then working on some specific like combinations and stuff.
Do you hit pads often, Jared? I don't really ever see you. No.
I don't post when I do. But I do a little bit of hitting pads. I've been working with this boxing coach out in Phoenix, to improve my hands a little bit, and I hit pads a lot with him. But I don't post pad work. It's not that I just spar all the time, but it's just like I don't think
Fun.
people want to see it.
Yeah. All right, man. So you guys are gonna do some striking today.
I'm probably gonna go lift.
Oh, you're gonna go lift this late, dude. Damn, this is
to be honest, guys. I'm a bit sick. I don't know why I didn't really show much in this podcast. My throat's been killing me, fever-like symptoms. But I'm gonna go bench and hopefully go pretty heavy. But we'll see.
All right, good luck.
Sometimes you gotta just sweat it out, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
take it easy, everyone. If you're not
All right,
subscribed,
guys.
subscribe right now, like, comment, turn on your notifications. We're going to be going live for this weekend's fight, so you do not want to miss it.
See you guys.